Greetings and welcome to Raw Rant, everybody. Monday night party with our rowdy friends. Tonight we have some wonderful special guests with you. One who is still sleeping, but we'll introduce him anyways. The sexy redheaded Scott who loves Star Trek so much that he named his dog Worf. How is this a thing? Dave Cullen will be on the show as soon as he gets up. It's the middle of the night over there, guys. So, you know, he's...
I'm surprised he agreed to it in the first place.
Yeah, well, he wants to be here really bad because he's seen all of Picard. So also we got with us, joining us is the Duke of Discord, the lover of all things entertainment, Robert Meyer Burnett.
We're raw dogging ideals here tonight, man.
Woo, come on. Woo. And last but not least, the man who was born in a comic book shop, but was born to make us all think. The sexiest man in beard and glasses, Nerdrotic.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Robert. Hey, thanks. How you doing? Glad to be here. Talk about some Star Trek Picard. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Hell is frozen over.
I can't believe there's so much unity, too, amongst us all.
Yeah, what are the odds?
It takes someone like Terry Metalis to bring us all together, I think, under this. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna start off with a quick super chat from Ken B. Someone check on Doomcock during this broadcast. No sharp objects or shoelaces.
Oh, well, you know,
that's rough, Ken.
Fans will be fans. They're going to disagree. I think once everybody sees all this, we can disagree about plot points, possible inconsistencies, a character you don't like. That's the note. We've always done this, as Robert said very wisely on this podcast, because I was watching. What this is now, you know, in this little pop culture sphere, is a nonstop 24/7 sci-fi convention.
That's what it is.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of how I thought of when I was when Elizabeth bought me this microphone. I didn't know what was my channel going to be, and that's sort of what I keyed on, because I've been going to conventions since I was 12, and I loved. I'm sure Gary, you loved. When WonderCon was in San Francisco, it started out in Oakland and then it migrated to the Moscone Center. And I loved going into panels, listening to people talk about, whether it was comic writers and artists or media people. I just loved listening to them talk about their process and where they were coming from, what they were thinking, why they did what they did. And and everybody was welcome. Mm-hmm. That was the whole, is you could go into a room and it didn't matter what you might personally disagree with your fellow fans, but you were there to honor the work that was being done, even if you hated the work. You would listen to people just to find out, well, why'd you screw up so badly?
Yeah. Good point. Gary, so I think the common theme here for all of us was somebody saying, hey, you want to watch Picard season 3, and saying, listen, seasons 1 and season 2 were not good. So if it's not good, we're going to tell you it's not good. Gary, how surprised were you after watching Picard season 3?
Pretty surprised. Even more surprised than I was after House of the Dragon, which I thought would be just awful. And I ended up loving it.
Can I just point out for a minute, Gary, what did you just say?
I thought the House of the Dragon would be awful, and I ended up loving it.
Okay, I just want to point out, you too can love things. You look at things. I mean, a lot of people say, "Why? He hates everything." No, you don't.
No, I don't. I got in this business because I love this, because I love this stuff. I just have a different point of view, and that's fine. But Star Trek Picard season 1 and 2 were hot garbage, along with all of Star Trek Discovery and every second of Kurtzman Trek. Not a fan of it at all. And I was just thinking, okay, I get to see this early, and I get to rip on it early. If I get to rip on it early, or let's see what happens, because I heard Robert and then I heard Dave, and that combination, like, okay, all right, well, let's see. But I was going to see it through anyway. I mean,
we were also spamming you, Gary.
Yes, you were. Yeah. And thank you for making me your +1. Sorry, I couldn't make it. I got the freaking flu. But yeah, I was shocked. I started hearing familiar music, started hearing familiar things, but then I saw Raffi and I heard the robot. And oh no. So it was good that, I got past the first episode, but I got to call it like I see it. I don't think it's
amazing. So you did something really amazing, actually. You came out and said Picard season 3 was good, and everybody in Twitter started kind of going against you. And you said, look, I'd rather lose my channel than not tell the truth. And I got to tell you that level of character, not everybody's that strong, brother. So the fact that
that gave me an erection right away. Boom.
Oh,
immediately.
Well, all right.
Hey, we are raw dogging.
We know your love
erect
language.
Honesty.
Well, that's all we can be. That's all we can be. I mean,
Yep.
you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like it. And me liking it is not this blanket support for Kurtzman. Hell no, dude. I hate that guy. Can't stand. He's been horrible to fandom. He's been a horrible leader, and he had next to nothing to do with this. And I think that matters. And with House of the Dragon, all the people involved with Game of Thrones disaster outside of George, who wasn't involved towards the end when it was a disaster, were gone. Even the leadership at Warner Brothers and HBO were gone. It was a brand new team that came in that just said, hey, we're going to go with the source material, which I didn't even like. I think the source material for House of the Dragon is not very good. And I thought they improved on it. But this
I agree.
Is a different beast because for once we moved Star Trek forward and not in that stupid STD
Thank
freaking
God.
1,000 years thing. We finally moved Star Trek forward.
Finally.
Which I've been dying for decades. And
30 years.
It's not like 10 out of 10. It's not, but it's something, it's a treat that you didn't think I, as a Star Trek fan, I had given up on. I'm like, that's it. Star Trek's dead. We got worst case scenario. We got a Star Trek show that's a goodbye to the TNG, and it's a goodbye to live action Star Trek unless a miracle happens. Let's be real, because Kurtzman's going to make more of it. It's going to suck,
right?
Especially with Akiva Goldsman.
That's something we need to talk about here tonight too, because I want to mention, I mean, it's obviously wonderful that we're getting Star Trek that brings us back, and Rob can pontificate on how wonderful and thank you to Rob, by the way, he really put us all in this position by being the first guy to get out there and be able to see this early and then kind of bringing the rest of us in. Thank you for that, Rob.
Well, I mean, look, for me, it was just, I have to tell you, the first time I started watching this all the way through, it wasn't entirely finished. And what was amazing to me was it felt like, look, you can talk about how the cinematography is dark. It doesn't look like Next Generation, and nor should it. But it felt like Star Trek. And as you will see, there's a moment in the end of episode 2 where two characters have a wordless exchange between them. And it says everything that you need to know. And it's emotionally charged. It answers a big question that all the viewers have now. And it feels like Star Trek. And as the show unwinds, I've called it a Tom Clancy-esque techno thriller. It's got a really fun plot. It feels like a movie because episodes 1 through 4 are definitely Act 1. Then episodes 5 through 8 are Act 2, and episodes 9 and 10 are the shattering. It's the very satisfying balls to the wall climax. And it has that movie quality. I know it's 10 hours long, but it's structured and feels like a movie as opposed to, say, an episode. And what I really appreciated was what drives it is characterization throughout. And it's all the character interplay and all the dialogue exchanges that the characters have, which is something, and they talk like real people. They talk like how they would feel having gotten older. And what I love about it is, I tried to explain to somebody, I said, this is like Top Gun Maverick. And people are like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, the same way that Maverick is 30 years older, these characters feel they are 30 years older, and yet they feel like they're the characters. Like, look, Star Trek Picard seasons 1 and 2 they had to get Patrick Stewart back. He wanted all this input in the writer's room, and he basically made it the Patrick Stewart show in the sense that we're going to have, I'm going to deal with my abusive childhood, so I'm going to have my fictional mother hang herself and all this, like, what? Right. With Star Trek already shows that in the original series, in the first season, they go to a place where people are getting mentally ill people are getting the therapy and whatever help they need. That's the whole point, is that we don't have that kind of mental illness in the 23rd century because in a post-scarcity civilization, we don't have to worry about whether it's profitable or not to help people. Right. So that's what they do. Right here, the reason we have so many homeless in California is because there's no money to be made helping people kick their addictions or help their mental illness. People aren't going to, when Reagan got rid of all that stuff in the 80s, there were nowhere for people to go. And no one wants to spend the money to help those in need. Everyone's like, let's just buy them a house. Well, they don't know how to buy houses, and the houses they make are $800,000 a unit in this in this state.
Right.
And Star Trek is about
buy
a
a house
future
here.
where people get help.
Right.
And you know, what does Kirk tell Edith Keeler? Let me help. That's more important than even I love you. Again, first season of the original series, 1966-67 season.
Excellent. Well, thank you
I
so
agree.
much.
Well, we got a super chat from Terry Metalis. Let me do super chats real quick. Hey, just a super sticker of a giant mechanized robot. What's up, Terry? I don't know if that's actually Terry Metalis, but if it is, thank you for the $49, sir.
Well, if it is Terry Metalis, thank you. It's his
Oh, you-
shill payment he's got.
That's the show.
So,
baby.
I want him to pay me in 1/350th scale models of the Titan. How can I get that?
Yeah. If I'm gonna shill, yeah, please.
Yeah.
Real quick, we also have a
Master
super chat from
replica.
Mexican Iron Man and Mexican Iron Man. Shout out to all of you. Greetings from South Carolina, 1999. Thank you, Mike.
What's up, Mexican Iron Man?
My
That's a good
man.
dude right there.
nicest guy in the community. No, we need
And
to-
Brian G. Nice to see Gates McFadden finally get something to actually do this time. Feels like she got shortchanged the most, especially in the films. Also, she's still hot. She is still hot.
She is.
Let's just tell if that is Terry Metalis. Let's say, Terry, you did an excellent job for season 3. The question is do we get more Star Trek after this? We know we want to enjoy what we've got, but we can't help to wonder if we forward the story. You guys, Gary, tell me, did you think that Terry forwards the story, gives us an opportunity to continue moving forward?
Yeah.
This
Oh, yeah.
time?
They got to give him the keys. They got to give him the keys to Star Trek. They have to.
They have to.
They have to. Or
Oh, God,
it's-
they have to.
Yeah, he's the guy who can probably get it done. But we know how politics work in Hollywood, and we know how egos work. And I wish him all the best. I'm hoping for it. But if not, then we got, like I said, we got this gift that I didn't think we were going to get. I didn't think I was ever going to see.
Yeah. Well, Rob,
I
you know
just
the
hope
secret
that we
behind
get the engagement. Obviously, everybody looks at analytics now, and the engagement on social media for Picard has been far more. I mean, maybe Strange New Worlds got some engagement, but amongst fan communities, it looks like it really is, and we have to watch. People have to watch the show. That's the only way that they're going to know. And hopefully, I think as people get more sucked in, even the haters, the further you get into the show, the more enticing it becomes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, God.
Terry
it gets-
says, I love you boys. Robot Picard out.
I wish you could have.
We all know we have to deal with that, but do you guys
yeah.
think he handled that well?
Well as he could.
Yeah.
Well as he could.
He
You know,
didn't have a choice. He had to deal
I'm
with
now
it.
positive
Yeah.
that's Terry Metalis.
There's some snarkiness to season 3 that kind of shoots back at 1 and 2, don't you guys think?
Oh yeah. Oh definitely.
A lot of it.
Mhm.
Especially something we can't say until much later that cracks me up every time I hear it. That has
Rob,
something to do with somebody who's not back this season.
Oh, yeah, I think. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes,
Ooh, that's right.
Yes, Rob, what episode are people just going to fold up and start crying like little babies at?
Well, look, I think the end of episode 4 is incredibly emotional.
Yeah.
Look, in my theater, in the theater I was sitting with you guys at, people were sniffling a little bit at the end of the next episode because of that wordless exchange. But to me, the end of episode 4 is some of the most Star Trekian Star Trek you're ever going to see. And it's something that I think is missing. Here's the thing. I've always said that, Star Trek was always about the best of the best. Like, in order to be at the edge of the final frontier, you had to know your job. And now, one of my problems with Star Trek Discovery is you don't. You can be really mediocre at your job and still be out there. I mean, that short takes with the Tribble, and they always use that episode where you've got the female captain telling the bearded white male to shut up. You're done. And then literally they kill him.
Oh, yeah, that was the
That
one where
was
like,
a
nope,
crazy
nope,
episode.
stop
That was-
talking. No.
Yeah,
turn
yeah.
around, Stop talking. Yeah.
That's watching that. Gene Roddenberry would have been rolling in his grave. I mean, every single ounce of anything Star Trek ever stood for was completely vandalized by that one short take. And frankly, when I watch that, I'm like, this and Discovery has done this. If you watch the first episode of the second season where Pike is first introduced, one of his aides, attaches, whatever, is a total dick. Again, a white male that gets killed in that episode. in the asteroid field. And, you know, the whole thing about Star Trek was any human life lost was a tragedy. Not in this day and age. There are people that are expendable. And better yet, their death is punishment. And as I've always said, you cannot trade one oppression for another. And Star Trek is about everybody moving forward together. And now, I mean, in this day and age, it's a little terrifying because you can see more than a little bit of bloodlust in people.
Right.
You know, I don't know if you watched, Gary, did you see Young Ripa's video that he put out where he name-checked you this morning about people hatred online and how to deal with it?
I saw it.
Yeah. I love that video, you know, and I thought that because he pulls no punches, I absolutely agreed with him. And, you know, I like when people say that because, look, man, if we're not going to treat each other respectfully, all people, I mean, where are we? And Star Trek is about a future where everybody learns to move forward together. And look, if you might have a problem with somebody, and they've shown this on many episodes, people on opposing sides of things come together and solve a problem when you're in a clutch. And I don't feel that way about where we're at now. And that's too bad.
And I think, and I know you weren't saying this about all fans, Robert, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm calling you out, but I think
Call me out.
No, I think we need to be careful when we use the term haters, okay? Because Star Trek, Kurtzman Trek, has earned.
Oh, I'm talking about
much of this.
I'm talking about people that hate me.
Why would anybody hate you?
There's a lot of people that hate me.
There's
And you know what?
People,
They're Star Trek fans.
Hey, you
Starting
know what?
with Paramount
Tell you
Plus.
what? You want to really piss people off? Put a "Make Marvel Mail Again" shirt and take a picture of yourself on the internet. I'm still it's been so much fun.
Yep, I remember
It
that.
had 20,000 views, by the way.
Yeah,
That tweet.
Well,
Look, Gary, I believe in hating things that deserve to be hated. And I have hated Star Trek since 2009.
I did it to wind them up, but it's one of those things. I did it. I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely. I did. I'm like, I'm going to trigger people today because I'm bored
This is the
and I want to
plan.
kill 5 minutes on the internet. And man, it's still going. And my
Gary
son
chose violence that day.
My son walks. I chose violence, and that's what you get. My son walks. We just got done watching John Wick, and he watched it for the first time because
Ooh.
awesome. He's old enough to watch it, and he's like, Dad, somebody just put up a gif of you being shot in the head 4 times because I wore that shirt, and like I get that every day. I get it every day.
Wow.
And Rip is right. Like it's the internet. I don't take it that seriously. I'm not going to go attack people for it. But when it comes to like Star Trek, when it comes to Star Trek fans and Kurtzman Trek, people are rightly upset. Not just if it was just a bad show and the crew and the cast of the previous show had come out and just not said anything, not said a word, it would have passed. It would have passed. But there was people from quietly from the staff to actor Marina Sirtis went out and this wasn't about Star Trek, but made a blanket statement about Texans when they were freezing to death and blaming Republican. Like that's the kind of stuff you need to shut the hell up because that there you just lose your audience immediately. Rightly so, by the way. Rightly so. So there's a lot of baggage that it's not fair that Terry has to kind of pick up for Kurtzman's massive mess. Right. But life isn't fair. And that's the reality of the situation. So if people are out on this, I get it. I get it. But like I've heard from many corners and I agree there has to be a path to redemption somewhere. Like if Guardians 3 comes out and it's good, I'm going to say it's good. That if I like it, I'm going to say it's good. Sure. Because I would make bank if I was crapping on Star Trek Picard right now.
Right.
That's what I said in the pre-show. I was like, I respect Gary so much because when we found out you had gotten the copy, I was like, I know Gary.
And if it was crap, I'd have told you it was crap.
No, I was
I
confident.
haven't spoken to him for about a year. How's this going to go? And you came out with that. I was like, yeah, there's Gary.
There was a lot of conversation about who should see it all. And I said, look, there's some people that are going to be honest about it. And, we knew Gary would be, that's the thing about character. And that's why, your videos lately have just been so wonderfully mind-blowingly honest, the whole, everything. I was talking to Brian about it earlier. You're really hitting on everything and really making us think. And I think that's what's important. We've lost so much of that. And the thing about whether Picard season 3 is a unicorn or not, and this is something we should probably discuss because we all want Terry to continue making Star Trek. We know because we've seen the whole thing. Everybody else is kind of like, well, we got one good episode, but hey, what's up? We're letting you guys know. Trust me, by the time you get to the end, you're going to be like, where the hell are we going now? But we also have to recognize that the studio and Alex Kurtzman and those people don't always have the same vision that we do. And the reason we ended up getting Pike was basically because the fans spoke up. So I think it's important that if we do like it, we do speak up and we're honest about it. We're not afraid to listen. You can hate Star Trek for what's happened, but we should have hope for the future. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I do too. But again, it's all about performance. Right. If Terry's vision of, and he's going to be fighting an uphill battle because one, if it performs well and people love it, they're going to attribute it to the Next Generation cast. That's what they're going to say, that the TNG cast coming back is what everybody, and I would say, well, that's great, but the TNG cast was in Star Trek Nemesis, and that movie wasn't so great.
Yeah, they're going to attribute to that, and then they're going to try to make a bunch of returning older cast member stuff.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that Terry has going for him is he and his staff are great writers that know character and story, and I would say that his work on 12 Monkeys, the 12 Monkeys series, they did 4 seasons of that, and it's so tightly plotted, and they really did a tremendous job, and Terry will tell you that they knew where they were going. That's why they were able to film scenes in season 3 they were going to use in season 4. They knew where they were going, and I think that also another thing that Terry has, what he has going for him is, I've explained what a bottle episode is for a TV show, and a bottle episode is an episode where they shoot mostly on standing sets that they've already built. They don't go on location. They don't have to go out places. And on a TV show like Star Trek, when they would go on location or they'd have a big effects heavy episode, that would cost more money. And in order to pay for it, they'd have to make it up with a bottle show where they just shoot on their sets. And they'd have to come up with a story like the Doomsday Machine in the original series is a great example of a bottle show.
Love that
using the standing sets, and then they redress them. They don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
So what Terry did very smartly is he made a ship-based series. And the first 4 episodes, they go to Metalis. By the way, that planet was established in Enterprise. They didn't just make it up for this.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I thought that was ballsy, but
but
I'm not strong on Enterprise, dude. So,
it's okay. It's okay.
My favorite.
But he made a ship-based show, which is great because isn't that what Star Trek is? They don't have to go on location in Los Angeles. They shoot on their standing sets in controlled environments, where it keeps the costs down. And especially if you'll notice, the first 4 episodes are very, you're on Metalis or you're in the La Serena, which is a set, and then you're in a redress of a set to see the Vadix, Captain Vadix alien vessel, and then you're on the Titan sets. So he's figured out a way to create a compelling narrative that's also as inexpensive as a Star Trek show can be. That's not saying it doesn't go balls to the wall by the end, but that's what you do. You save your money by doing a bottle show. So from a production standpoint, from the standpoint of somebody that knows how to produce TV, and Terry writes, produces, and directs, and that's formidable. And he really knows what he's doing. And so I would say that alone gets him more credibility than a lot of other showrunners because he is a triple threat, and he also knows how to keep the budget in line. And that's a rare thing, especially in TV.
Let me ask you a question. How much do you think him not embracing our societal struggles is going to impact him getting future work? Because, he's kind of playing it straight. He's not embracing our social agendas that a lot of these shows have. Do you think that plays against him in Hollywood, or how do you think that works?
No, because look, truth in storytelling is self-evident. And when you're pandering to your audience, it was funny. I think Terry heard this too. There's a mutual friend that we have that was explaining what he called fraudulent creators, which is my new favorite term. People that they have one success and they use it, they parlay that into many other successes. Many other jobs, but those jobs never turn out very well because they're lazy. They've made their money, and they go and they get as much as they can, when they can, how they can. It's like that in Almost Famous when the Stillwater manager comes in that's played by Jimmy Fallon. You think the Rolling Stones are going to be dancing at 50? But that's what people do. And there's so much fraudulent creation in Hollywood where people who don't look, Secret Hideout did not get Star Trek because they loved Star Trek. They got Star Trek because they want to make money. They wanted to take a franchise that needed guidance. And I would imagine that Alex Kurtzman had some kind of clause in his contract when he wrote Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness that allowed him to get a piece of any sequel shows or anything. And he was able to use that to get into producing modern Star Trek. But he doesn't care. For him, it's just another job. And if you look at what Kurtzman's big failing, look what he did to Clarice. I mean, what's really...
God, that's right.
I mean, if you go in and look at, like, Brian Fuller took Hannibal and did something truly extraordinary and made it into a great TV show going into well-worn mythology. And he could not get the rights to Silence of the Lambs. That's what they were trying to do to get a season 4 of Hannibal. And what the hell did Alex Kurtzman do who has a co-creator credit on Discovery? He went and got the Clarice rights. And they made one of the most god-awful shows. That pilot was so bad. And I'm like, wow, your co-creator of Discovery that is getting you a ton of cash that you piggybacked on all the work that he had done. And now you go and you steal. I mean, not really, I say steal, but he was able to acquire the rights that Brian Fuller was desperately trying to get. And rather than go, here, Brian, go make season 4 of Hannibal. We'll hook it up for you. No, he takes it and bastardizes it and makes a show that doesn't even last a full season.
Well, is that a sign of something we should be concerned with? Because that sounds, we could be in a similar situation here.
In my opinion, that guy's a massive thief. Jesus. I still have Anas Abdeen's back for that one with the tardigrade.
Oh, dude, by the way, I believe it. I believe it 100%.
Yeah. I didn't believe it at first. The more I got into it, the more I believed it. And the original Steam page predates Discovery by like 2 years.
Yes, it does.
Well, you can even see what they do because, I'll use Strange New Worlds as an example. They straight up ripped off an Ursula K. Le Guin story.
Yep.
Those Who Walk Away from Umlaus. No accreditation. When they used a Frederick Brown story to originally, it's the basis for the episode of Reno, the first episode with the Gorn in the original series. They credited Frederick Brown, the original short story writer. The final Gorn episode's very different, but they still credited him in the episode. And Alex Kurtzman was interviewed and said, yeah, well, we took inspiration from Ursula K. Le Guin, a female science fiction writer who's one of the great female science fiction writers of all time. And they flat out took her story. I mean, they didn't just kind of take it. They flat out took it. And then they also, because why not, they completely ripped off Rebecca Romaine's backstory from Dorothy Fontana's one and only Star Trek novel.
Right.
They flat out just, and now the answer there is that, we own all of those Star Trek novels. Great. I understand that you do, but how about story by Dorothy Fontana?
Yeah, credit the writer.
She's dead. She's
Are you
grand.
telling me Una wasn't unique?
I'm telling you her backstory. And it's frustrating. Like, these guys, all they have to do is give credit where credit is due. Don't do an interview after the fact and go, yeah, we took a lot of inspiration from Ursula K. Le Guin. Oh, you mean you stole her story? I mean, you flat out adapted her story, didn't credit her estate.
These are the clowns that put stock photos in freaking Picard. Used 2 stock photos or stock footage and stock photos.
Stock footage, yeah. I actually had that stock footage.
Yeah, everybody has it. It used to come free with, I think, After Effects. I used to have a copy.
The fox being eaten?
Yeah.
That's like classic.
And Mass Effect. Do they own Mass Effect?
Vegas.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember looking at that and being like, wait a minute, I have that stuff.
I got a shout out to Anna's in the chat from that Star Wars girl.
And
I also
that
have to
Star
say,
Wars girl.
Mark Croson says thanks for some of my favorite Star Trek documentaries and my Requiem for Krypton.
Okay, let me do some super chats.
Thank you for all your Star Trek work. I can't wait to fire up my Blu-rays and go through the whole thing again. Like I haven't felt like this in a while. I'm gonna go through that in DS9. So
That's
thanks,
exactly
Robert.
right.
Are you still blocked by Star Trek on Paramount Plus?
Oh
like I
yeah,
am?
Yes,
I
yes.
was pre-blocked. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that they had
I was
a.
too.
When Paramount Plus started and I saw it said Star Trek on Paramount Plus, I was like, oh cool. And I'm a Paramount Plus customer.
Yes.
And I go to Twitter and type it in. It's like you're blocked.
That's probably because your connection.
I don't
to,
understand that.
That was probably
Like
your
you've worked
connection to
for him.
Axnar.
Yeah,
That's probably
Axonar, what but still pre-blocked.
Hey, real quick, super chat from Play the High Note. Sorry to cut you guys off. Hey, Rob, I know you compare season 3 to Top Gun 2, but I think it's far more like Rocky 6, even down to Riker and Picard talking about their injuries.
That's true too. I mean, I definitely think that's true. But I want to get back to really quickly to the tardigrade thing. I think a lot of the time, because where that tardigrade came from, Brian Fuller and the people he was working with wrote 13 outlines and the first 2 scripts for their version of Star Trek Discovery. And in their version of Star Trek Discovery, the tardigrade was a character on the. He was part of the crew. He was named Ephraim, and I think
right.
what when they came on and took over, what they did was, because so much development work had been done, and by the way, there was no mycellular network. That was all terraforming in the original version. So what they did was they all came around and they went, how can we take all this stuff that's already here and repurpose it? Somebody goes, tardigrade. What can we do with this tardigrade character? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that game was the first thing that popped up. Somebody reads it and goes, oh, let's use these ideas. And then we'll take the mycellular network that was going to be for terraforming and we'll turn it into like, oh, it'll be like folding space in Dune, because the tardigrade looks like the Guild Navigator from David Lynch's Dune, and then you've got all the mythology that came out of that game.
Yeah, because that's what Star Trek's about, right?
Yeah.
But I think, Gary, you're right. I think there's no way to prove it, but seeing as how they've borrowed all of these things liberally, all you have to do, I mean, nowadays writers are going down the internet and taking things willy-nilly from everything. Hence a Mass Effect, of course.
Oh, of course, Mass Effect. Yeah. All right.
Anas had to try. He was never, like, poor guy. We tried, but going up against a monster company like that.
Yeah, what's he gonna do?
You know, and he doesn't live in America. He lives in Kuwait. So
right.
Yeah, it was messed up. But
his whole Steam game wasn't even properly approved. Like it's a lot of work.
Tons of work. He's a
They even
pixel
grabbed the
artist,
characters' names, I think, right? It wasn't just the tardigrade. It was also the character.
There was a kid. Well, God, Michael Burnham looked exactly like, in her prison uniform, exactly like the main character.
Yeah, she did.
Exactly in the main character in that game. So there was a gay romance in the game too, which was just like Stamets, and
it was weird.
By the way, you're right. I guess Neil, I got to call him Druckmann on this show. And I would not normally call him that. Neil Druckmann, and Alex Kurtzman read all the same blogs and saw the same podcasts with Paul Stamets, and
they totally did.
Yeah,
they all did. Yeah, and they really did do that, and that's okay. Like, I don't mind somebody taking inspiration from nature documentaries, which is cool. But it's when previously existing work, and people always say to me, well, Rob, didn't you want everybody to mine Star Trek novels? I'm like, yeah, but I didn't think they would do it and not credit the writers.
Yeah.
Like, why? And especially when Dorothy Fontana was a WGA writer, and it doesn't look. I learned a long time ago, if you're working in independent cinema, if you give somebody screen credit, it goes further than you could ever pay them when you're working for very little money. If people get acknowledged that they contributed, you can't buy that kind of credibility with them in case you want them to come back and work for you again.
And it's just the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. It's insecure, and it's also cheap. It's not like if you give somebody credit, you're giving like they're making tons of money. Okay,
right?
Like in most cases, they're not. It's just the studios and whoever's in charge just pinching as many pennies as they can instead of getting what Rob said, credibility with people who work with you. And then you get respect, and then people will be willing to work with you in the future, and you might get better talent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, another thing about Terry Metalis is people like working with him. You know, he has a very loyal crew. I walked out. I'd never met his composer before, and as Gary can attest, and you guys can attest, the music for Star Trek Picard season 3 is absolutely astonishing. And I met the composer and his wife and their little girl, and they worked together on 12 Monkeys, and Terry brought him in. First of all, nicest guy in the world. And he just went on and on and on and singing Terry's praises and about what they were able to do together. And he even credited, he goes, Terry basically co-composed this score with me. And you know what? I haven't heard a lot of creative people who are so eager to say something like that. And it's because they've worked together in the past and they respect one another.
No,
Yeah,
really well said. Yeah.
We got to interview Todd Stashwick, and he praised Terry for 5 minutes straight.
How cool is that guy?
Yeah.
He's
He's
awesome. Oh,
He's
and
got-
his D&D table is like, I'm so
That's pretty
jealous
sick.
of this man.
Have you seen pictures of his collection? I mean,
Well,
he's
we were
like
there.
us.
It's
He
amazing.
doesn't have
Yeah.
Gary's collection, but
we saw Gary
Photos
do
of
his
that,
room walk around. Right. I'm like, I saw Todd's and then I saw Gary's and I'm like, holy crap, Gary's room is incredible.
gotta do a room
Incredible.
Been
I
working on
tweeted
it for
about it. I
years.
said
Thank
it was
you.
delightfully insane, and I
It's
loved
insane. I like when people come over to the house, they go, "Is he okay?"
it. I bet the rest of your house looks like Town and Garden or something.
Well, I mean, for the most part,
Architectural Digest or whatever.
My wife
Chaos just
stole.
contained in one room.
Well, I say stole. She says she took like all my Star Trek stuff. She took because she's as big a Star Trek fan as I am. So she took all my ships, everything, or her ships. Sorry,
Right.
I used the
Yes.
right language. Her ships. So I'm missing that. But yeah, like the rest of the house looks like a normal house. My first normal house, Robert. My first normal house. Been
Sure.
working all my life for this normal.
You're in
house.
Texas.
Actually, I
now,
feel
right,
the
Gary?
same way where I'm at now. It's my first normal house. I mean, this is the garage. The only thing I've taken over the kitchen, one of the kitchen tables, because I'm building that 4.5 foot model of the space battleship Andromeda.
I saw that.
Dude. What Elizabeth doesn't know is I have 2 more ships that I'm building parts. I'm just no, baby. It's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
Shane
just
and I are
split into
building-
3. It's
We're
totally
building giant
normal.
board cubes right now.
So Gary, I got to ask you a question about porn. So tell us about the ass end of
VPN.
that Titan.
Use a VPN. The Titan is sexy,
porn,
man.
ship porn.
That is my porn. Ship
Oh,
and Bronze Age comic books is my porn.
He instantly responded with use a VPN. Jesus.
A man who knows his ways. I like it.
No, the Titan looked great. I love the Neo Constitution class. I love all the love the Constitution class gets in the beginning of the show because it's my favorite ship.
And more love later.
And
Such
more
a
love.
long, like that long, drawn out shot around the whole thing. That's only a fan would
Dude.
do that. You're not seeing that in other
Yep.
episodes.
So hopefully we get a big. I mean, I don't put together models, but if we get a big master replica, something to that effect, master replica 1/6 scale, something.
I heard Eagle Moss sold all their stock, right? So they can be coming back.
They are coming back. Doctor Who-
Ben Robinson, because
Yeah.
I was getting the Partworks kit of the Enterprise D, and I was about $1,000 into it, and they went bankrupt.
Oh my
And but no, he sent out. He actually put it on Twitter. He said that they're coming back. People have said it was going to be master replicas, but it was a different company name. It was Fan something.
Yeah.
And they were going to allow you to re-sign up at any point in the series, so people could jump in the middle. Because I mean, I literally had $1,000 worth of parts for a ship that would never be
That's
finished, and now
wild.
they're going to finish it.
That's
We
awesome.
got a super chat from Maria. Speaking of beautiful.
Hello, Maria.
Hey, my friends, love Terry Trek. Love you all. $5. Thank you, Maria. Super sticker from Kenneth the Roke. He's been literally supporting us for like 3 years now. Thank you, Kenneth. We love you, man. Orville Nation, PJ. By the way, PJ is still banned on Twitter.
Why?
Someone do something
Ooh.
about that. This is ridiculous.
So weird.
What happened?
I guess he sent an inappropriate GIF in a private message, and
Something about a
Twitter,
ninja.
Yeah, Twitter yeeted him off the
Twitter
platform.
Ninja? I don't know.
Twitter Ninja.
In a private message?
I know. Well, that's weird.
Yeah, PJ, you gotta explain that on Twitter.
This is
For
the most
us, bro.
innocent channel on Twitter.
Yeah, by the way, Gary is still there, by the way,
I'm still there.
but not PJ. He super
Especially
chat from Gary.
with that Marvel's poster I put up. I didn't think I'd last long, but I'm still here. So
$10 as a medical researcher. I want to say there should be no addiction that 25th century medicine cannot handle. Obviously, Terry had to deal with this storyline from prior seasons, and he handles it well.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Robert, yeah, that's a good question. So there is a question. We've heard some pushback on drugs in the future, and there's been some description that Metalis is outside of Federation control. You know, is that how you see it with the drugs? And
100%. I mean, first of all, lest we forget, there is a first season Next Generation episode called Symbiosis, and in that you have one planet that's basically addicted an entire other planet to space heroin.
That's right.
And to make money off of them. And all the way back to the first season of the original series, Harry Mudd in Mudd's Women has the Venus drug. Go ahead, Eve. Take it.
Right.
You know, and there are here's the funny thing. The Federation is, of course, a post-scarcity utopian civilization, but there's a whole universe out there of civilizations that are not. And there are unaffiliated worlds. There's all kinds of shenanigans happening out in the galaxy. So, look, I thought the idea of drug addiction with someone like Raffi, first of all, in the first season, they take a woman of color. She's literally living in a trailer park.
In Space San Bernardino.
In Space San Bernardino, and she's addicted to drugs.
It's literally
I'm like,
Space San Bernardino.
really? I'm like, really? Like no one. I mean, you talk about how did that get by anybody? How did that get by the woke writing staff or
She's
whatever?
Hey, JL.
But I do like the idea. Look, I've always loved undercover cop stories, you know, and whether it's Serpico or, you know, whatever, and when they have to do their drugs or otherwise they get discovered. And I do like that element of what's going on with Raffi being an intelligence operative. And I think it pays off well. And look, again, Terry inherited that. And I think in a way it's a creative choice to make her to make her character better. And I think as you move through this show, she does get better. And I actually really enjoy the relationship she develops with somebody who shall remain nameless that isn't 7 of 9. That's not who I'm talking about. And I think that Terry's group, his group of writers, went a long way to making that character better.
And I gotta say, I think it was really smart to start her story off this season in that place where people were sort of criticizing her and then flipping the script like that. That was really smart.
Yep.
It was bold and it worked.
Yeah.
It has a good payoff.
Yes. Especially next episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
speaking of good payoffs, let's talk about Gary's favorite character, Worf, and everybody's worried about this pacifism. What do you think, Gary? Should people be worried about this pacifism thing on?
Not at all. Not in the least bit. I freaking love Worf. He looks great.
Oh, he's so good.
He looks and he's freaking badass in this.
There's a speech he gives in like the 5th episode, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That when I heard it, I literally got up in the middle of like a private room of like 4 other people that were quietly watching. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Well,
he doesn't look like an orc either. So he doesn't.
Like
a Klingon.
That uniform, like his uniform, is so bad. I wouldn't call it a uniform. His duds. You know, you've always seen Star Trek has always recycled things. So the Klingon uniforms that we saw in Next Generation were reuses of uniforms that they came up with for the motion picture, that were then later used in Star Trek 3, and sometimes they create new Klingon uniforms like John Shuck's ambassador in Star Trek 4. But the uniform, the clothes, Worf's outfit in this is so badass when you first meet him. I mean, I hope Exo-6 does an action figure of that. I mean, it is so badass. And Terry went to Dan Curry, who created the Batleth for Next Generation, to make a new Klingon weapon that was basically a larger mechleth. You know, the mechleths are more of the knife, the one-handed Klingon weapon. The new weapon, I think it's called a Kurlith. Is it a Kurlith? That's like twice the size of a Mek'leth. I mean, that's how much effort Terry put into this show. He didn't have to go get Dan Curry, the guy who created the Batleth, to create a new weapon.
It's true.
But he did.
Right, he did.
Well said.
Yeah, he
Gary,
got
let me
the
ask
guy.
you-
He got the guy. He didn't have to get the guy. He could have gotten anybody. He got the guy.
Gary, let me ask you about Riker. So, how would you say? Seems like Riker's at his best. Jonathan Frakes really killed it this season. A lot of people are pretty happy with that. How did you feel about him going forward?
It felt like immediately. Okay, so Jonathan Frakes came back as Riker in season 1, and he even came out and said, I haven't acted in a long time. So they had to make him pizza, and losing his son to some disease that could have been solved if synths weren't made illegal. Although
the
there's
synth
this
thing.
whole back galaxy that Riker I would have taken my son to. He would have taken.
Yeah.
It was dumb,
Right.
but
It was
they had
so
to deal with
stupid.
it. But he looks in shape for his age, and he was Riker. He was Jonathan Frakes Riker from the get-go. And I think he steals the whole show, honestly. I think he's the glue that really, and his chemistry with Patrick Stewart is back. It's kind of buddy copish in the beginning, and I like that. And there's also like real tension. I won't say, but there's real tension, and it feels like this crew just years later getting together for one last romp. But yeah, I thought Jonathan Frakes killed it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it feels like we never really got to see him be a captain. Not really, And so this is like this moment where, and if we're not giving away too much, we could say you get to see what his captain chops look like. Would you say so, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't think that Jonathan Frakes has ever been better in the role of Riker as he is in this show. And he directs a few of the episodes. He's just so good in it. And he brings such wit and charm to his performance. And what's really interesting? Terry told me that if you watch, he gets thinner and thinner. He gets in better and better shape as they were shooting. And you can notice it. You can see it by the time they get to his face thins out, and he looks badass. I think he's 70 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got a super chat in regards to Worf. It can be if Picard season 3 is successful, is there a chance for a Worf series in the right hands? It could be amazing.
I mean, a Worf series would be awesome. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Worf in his own show? But I don't know. I mean, without saying, we don't want to say who makes it and who doesn't make it to the end. What do you guys think about a Worf series?
Well, here's the problem. From a production standpoint, if it was like a Klingon-centric show and they had to do lots of Klingon makeups every episode, that becomes problematic from a television production standpoint. But if Worf was like he is as it moves forward through this series, by all means.
Yes.
I mean, it would be... I could see Worf as... I mean, basically what they're kind of setting up... I don't want to say what they're setting because but you'll know it when you see it. There's a certain genre that Star Trek has never. It's more Section 31-esque, which, by the way, if one of the great crimes of Kurtzman Trek is they completely destroyed Section 31.
Yeah, badges now, Rob.
And membership cards,
Right.
and a base and ships.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how bad Section 31 was one dude. It was Sloan. He would show up, he'd be in Julian Bashir's bedroom or his quarters when Julian Bashir would wake up. He's like, I've got a mission for you. And then he would disappear. And that was so great.
Yeah, they didn't rent a billboard on Sunset and advertise their offices.
And they didn't have black communicator pins or whatever to say, oh, I'm Section 31. Was that not the dumbest representation of... I don't know if you guys have seen the French OSS movies, the ones that stars John Dujardin, the French actor. They basically took there's the OSS series from the 60s in France. They've done a comedic reboot, kind of an Austin Powers-esque version of it in France, but they've made it look like it was shot in this. It's amazing. If you haven't seen the OSS movies, you got to find the French OSS. They're hilarious. But that's what Section 31 is, but less funny. They've made Section 31 they've completely ruined this great concept. And that's why I watched that and I'm like, what are you doing? By the way, I just also would like to point out that David Mack, the great Star Trek novelist, wrote a book called Section 31, Control, that they completely ripped off.
They ripped it. Yeah.
They completely ripped it off. And David Mack was a consultant on Prodigy. And it's like, guys, I mean, you don't even bother to change the names. And David Mack has written for Deep Space Nine. Give the man a job.
Oh my
Bring
God,
him
they're
onto your
taking
writing
control.
staff. He's one of the best Star Trek novelists there ever was.
Well said.
Speaking, we got a super chat from Son of John. I'm gonna get to everyone's super chats. I promise. I'm just trying to pepper them in properly. They are trying to redeem Raffi. Angry Joe and Doomcock think Picard season 3 is a Trojan horse. I'm thinking that the founder is the main baddie. I mean,
Interesting.
I don't think it's a Trojan horse, but
Well, you know what? You have to think about the people who've only seen one episode. Now,
Yeah.
no disrespect to Doomcock or Angry Joe, but they've only seen one episode, right, Gary?
Yeah, like, and you can't blame anybody for thinking that. You
Right.
just can't, because
No.
Picard season 2, it was crap, but there are many who thought that the first episode started off promising, because there was some Starfleet stuff in there.
yeah.
And I didn't think the first episode of Picard season 1 started promising. I hated it within 10 minutes.
Me too.
I can't. Can I talk about? No, I can't talk. Was that in the first episode? No, it was in the second episode. I can't talk about it. Terry,
I like the first
I don't know if
episode
Terry
because it
was listening.
Starfleet.
I don't know if Terry was listening, but he takes care of something that was a huge problem in Star Trek Picard season 1. It's just a little detail that I hemmed on for. I'll tell you in the private chat.
Just taking
But
care of it.
yeah, dude, I you can't blame people. You can't. They either going to stick with it or not. There's a lot of Kurtzman Trek you have to shed in the beginning. Raffi being there is going to be a problem. If they stick like the second episode, you'll just see where her journey is going. I can say that. And that has a very satisfying thing happen. But yeah, it's going to take time. That's the bad part of the weekly release, although I fully back the weekly release for all television
Yes,
shows. I think
thank
it's
God.
Me
terrible. You can always binge later.
Yeah. Yeah, the
But,
weekend release is so important to like just fan theories, and the water cool effect is
millions of dollars of free advertising these companies are getting with us talking about this stuff.
Yeah, remember, look at Karate Kid, or what was it called? Cobra Kai. That was a great series. Everyone talked about it for 5 minutes, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well
We got a super chat from Brian G. Glad to hear the TNG crew is getting a proper send-off. Now Metalis has to fix Generations to give Kirk a proper send-off. Because that one was unforgivable. 29 years
Totally.
later, I'm still salty.
So bad.
Oh, hated it.
Kirk died under a bridge.
By himself.
What? That was horrible.
You know, I'll tell you that the Red Letter Media guys liked that.
Yeah.
I mean, I discovered them because their Generations review, the Plinkett Generations review, made me so happy when I first watched it because it shredded that movie, shredded it. And to see them like it, I thought for sure that Mike would just be like, "This is terrible." But I think, I was making the point earlier. I think that older fans, people that are more that are looking for different things. For instance, I look at characterization first. Character and story comes first for me. Canon then comes second, and then details come third. And I think what the show shows you is it moves along. Is the character stuff is terrific, and it gets better and better. And the new characters, Liam Shaw, and we know from the first episode that it's Beverly Crusher's son. More on him. He's a terrific actor, and he's great in the series as well.
Ed Speleers. Listen, if you guys aren't sure if you like Shaw, there's a lot of people really pissed off at him right now. Just hold on and feel him out as you go. I have a feeling that you're just gonna change your mind about this guy going.
I had to explain to someone on the Salty Saturday show. I was like, you got to think of Shaw like Trip Tucker, and that's all I can say. Trip Tucker.
Okay.
Big Worm, thank you, Big Worm. Super chat $10. Hail all, thank you to all for convincing me to watch this season. This is the Picard I hoped for when it was rumored. Terry should run Trek from now on. I want to love it again. Live long and prosper. I agree with that.
Yes. And also, Big Worm, just you got to put the word out there like that. Keep getting it out if you guys like it. And this is only the first episode. If you guys are loving it right now, I mean, I would argue this is the weakest of all 10 episodes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a setup.
Love it more as it goes forward, I think.
Dork Knight for $2. Thank you, Dork Knight. Amazing panel. Met Gary in Vegas at NFB. Cool dude.
Millennium Fandom Bar.
Yeah.
It's the nerd bar. Robert, are you going to CinemaCon?
Well, theoretically, yeah. You know, if theoretically, if we go, I went last year. I love CinemaCon.
I'll be there that week. That's when we're doing our meetup. I decided to do it during the week of CinemaCon. I'm like, it'd be fun doing CinemaCon because somebody was like Meyer Burnett's around. I hook him into our meetup. So
that was your poster. You put up that new poster.
Yes.
Oh,
Vector
nice.
Visual. Vector Visual is the artist. He is amazing.
It's a great poster.
Yeah, that poster's going up on Mixed Tees pretty soon.
And
By the way,
this.
I got to give I guess it's Perry Chan who cut that video I was talking about.
Yes. Perry Chan's my editor.
Perry saw that I actually called out his editing, and he was very happy. But so I want to give a shout out because I thought that piece was really well done. The one with so for those of you who don't know, Gary put out a really interesting piece. No matter your politics, I would suggest watching it. It's got John Cena and it says woke John Cena and it's China because he capitulates. He bent the knee to China over Taiwan. And it's a really well done video and it's really well produced. And I think it's worth your time. And again, regardless of your politics, you might learn something if you watch it.
Well said.
Perry Chan is a master and a good dude.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't been to if you haven't been to Vegas to be at one of the meetups at the Millennium Fandom Bar, it's the best time ever. So I know Gary's going to put that out when that's going to happen. And if you can make it to Vegas and you're in that area, definitely show up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we've been there like 3 times. It's awesome.
It's free.
Hey,
first round is on us. First round and some tacos. So
Gary pays for everything. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, I do. So I do. It's a thank you because I have this amazing job now, so it's the least I could do.
Awesome.
Get back a little bit.
Brian, do we have any more?
Yeah, we do.
Just do a couple more, and then if you guys want, we can talk a little more about Star Trek. But I'd love to do a little Ant-Man and the Wasp if you guys have time.
That's gonna be fun. All right, Orville Nation for $5. Thank you, PJ. Exactly, Terry should not be paying any price online from disgruntled fans from prior Trek.
It's a tough position to be in, but
Yeah.
I'll say this. There are many who believe, and I don't know, but there are many who believe that like Jon Favreau is at Star Wars trying to do the best for Star Wars. Everything I've heard is he's a pretty good dude. Wish he had Gina's back, but that didn't happen. But there's a lot of people who believe he's trying to do good for Star Wars. How is it different with Terry Matalas? They're both bad organizations. Right. Disney, Star Wars, and Kurtzman Trek are bad organizations with bad leaders who have made bad decisions, who have treated their customers like crap, paying customers like crap. So if somebody sneaks in or is there and they're trying to do the best they can within that, and I just don't see the difference.
Well, that's the argument right now, right, Gary? The argument is if you support good Star Trek, then it continues the current, administration, so to speak. So Kurtzman keeps his job, or if you burn it all down, he might lose it. Now we don't have that opinion. We think somebody else will just get the job. But the same thing over at Disney. Is Kathleen Kennedy going to get fired? No. I mean, obviously, they haven't gotten rid of her so far. They haven't got rid of Kurtzman and they're still making Star Trek. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it means that if we get something good, we're lucky.
Yes.
And it's an accident.
Again, it really comes down to, first of all, this is a Paramount Plus show. Does Paramount Plus gain subscribers because of Picard season 3? And are people watching it? So there's the social media element of it, the mentions and all that, which really doesn't matter as much as whether or not people subscribe to Paramount Plus. That's why I encourage everybody to subscribe to Paramount Plus, because don't use a VPN. subscribe to Paramount Plus and watch this show, because that's the way that they understand the analytics. And if this is a resounding success, you have to give them no reason to say anything other than Terry Matalas was responsible for this. You can't just say that, oh, it was the Next Generation cast. I'm not convinced the Next Generation cast would have come back without Terry.
Right.
Well, listen to what they said about Terry. If you look at every situation, every con, every meeting, even at the premiere, it was, we got to thank Terry Matalas for this, because it wouldn't have happened without him. I mean, they are very vocal about it.
Well, it wasn't until, I don't know Terry very well, but I've come to really respect him and like him. But the entire time I'd met him, I felt like I should call the ASPCA, because he was like a puppy that had been abused. And it wasn't until when the lights, he'll probably be embarrassed for me to say this, but when the lights came up in the Chinese theater, after, it wasn't just because the cast was there, the applause that those first 2 episodes generated. I mean, and I was sitting right next to you guys. This was a genuine, I haven't seen applause like this. I've been to a lot of premieres, and I haven't seen applause like this maybe ever. And yes, it was a very, the audience was packed with Star Trek fans. But I mean, I've been in packed Star Trek fan audiences before that did not have this resounding round of applause. And for the first time, I saw the biggest smile ever on Terry Matalas' face.
Right.
And finally, I think he began to believe for real that what he had created was very special, because he certainly wasn't, I wouldn't imagine, getting that from the powers that be.
Right.
Well, you heard it on stage. What did you get?
Oh man.
It's probably a good thing I wasn't there.
Hey, thanks for everyone being here. Good luck.
I'd have just embarrassed you guys, man. I'd have been, boo, Kurtzman, boo. I'd have been hissing.
Well, to be fair, though, I mean,
when Kurtzman showed up, I was like, thank God Gary's not here. Oh my God.
Right?
I mean, they did give him, you can't, the one thing Kurtzman did was he did put Terry in charge.
It's true.
I mean, Akiva Goldsman went on to make Strange New Worlds, and Alex Kurtzman, rightly or wrongly, he did want to go off and make his sequel to Nicholas Roeg and Walter Tevis, the novelist's Man Who Fell to Earth, and he went off and did that. So they needed somebody to run Picard season 3, and they gave it to Terry. Terry took it and ran with it like any great creative does, and really made it his own show. And they let him, if he wanted to get rid of people, he could. He brought in his own personnel, from his DP to his composer, and that's something that I give credit where credit is due, and Alex put his faith in Terry. And I would hope, unfortunately, you can't always expect this, that if Alex wants to go do something else, he knows the man that should steward the Trek franchise, because Alex gets to put his name on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, why do you have to look any further?
I'm okay with his names on it if we get good Trek. I don't care.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Fine. Whatever. Do whatever you want. Super chat from PJ. Again, thank you, sir. 12 Monkeys' respect of an in-show canon is exemplary. Yeah, I agree. 12 Monkeys is outstanding. That's what made me a fan of Terry Trek.
Well, and it's 12 Monkeys is Star Trek, right?
And Todd Stashwick.
Yeah, it's Todd Stashwick. Yeah.
Because
or we like to call him Daddy.
Stop. No, but
I want his Titan T-shirt. Did you see that?
I did see that.
And you want to hear something crazy about that T-shirt? So Brandon Clayla, who made that T-shirt, is in Free Enterprise.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I cut his one line out, but he's in it.
I wrote you the dog for
a director's cut.
That's why you didn't get a
this
T-shirt.
won't end, but the beginning. Enterprise F. # Enterprise F. ## Captain 7. That'd be cool.
Interesting. Can't say a whole lot about that.
Hey, it's cool. Who else would have made the Enterprise F from Star Trek Online canonical?
That's true.
Right? And it's
true.
the exact ship. It's like he took the model and that was awesome.
Come on.
Well,
Yeah,
did you
that
see
was
that Star Trek actually on their Instagram account, Paramount on their Instagram account actually gave away kind of what's going to happen to the F, and they said it was being decommissioned, right?
Oh yeah, on their blog. That's right, on their blog.
All right.
That was
We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop there before CBS
Terry's
snipers
just
shoot my
ecstatic. It's like
another one from Marvel Nation. Unk is the true tardigrade in sci-fi. He's referring to the penis alien in in the Orville.
In Orville that sells the porno that gives
sells the porno,
that gives
yeah.
the virus to the Orville.
Of course,
Mocklin
the
porn.
giant alien looks
That
like a
wasn't
walking
a
penis.
shot at Star Trek Discovery at all.
No.
Yeah, come on,
Not at all.
come on. Mike Croson for $10. Thank you, Mike. Robert's bringing the filthy with 3 of my faves. I'd love to hear his thoughts on the new Quantum Leap. Where is it going? Where it could go, and how could they make it a movie?
You know what, I've got friends working on it. I have not watched it yet, only because there's so much stuff to catch. It's network, man.
Dude, the first 9 episodes are great.
I know, dude.
10 and 11 are rough.
I don't touch that network stuff.
I know,
man.
it's
prestige and science fiction, wizards, or drug deals gone bad for me.
It's funny. I started Elizabeth, my girlfriend, is watching New Amsterdam, and it's a medical show. The thing about New Amsterdam is it stars a actress named Janet Montgomery, who starred in this horror movie I produced back in 2008 called The Hills Run Red. And she worked for Brandon Braga after that. And so I was watching, I sat down and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's a medical show.
Listen, Quantum Leap is a good show for the most part. We've enjoyed it. We've been reviewing it every week. It's just the last episode was, they ended up, it was weird. They made like the worst possible episode they can possibly make. And then they took a break for a month. And all anyone's going to remember for the last 30 days is that really, really bad episode. But before that, it was pretty good.
Well, I want it to be good because Ben Rabb and Derek Hughes, who are on that show, I think they're EPs. I have self-published one comic book, and they created it called Living in Infamy. And we've been trying to make it into a TV series forever. And I'd love to see them have great success so we could make Living in Infamy into the show that it was always meant to be.
How long ago was that, Robert?
It was a long time ago. It was it was 2005, 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And I loved doing it, but at the time I was flush with I was producing special features, and it was back in the days when they paid you a lot of money to do it.
Oh yeah.
And then it all dried up. But it was fun. I mean, it was great. We published a 4-issue miniseries, and we had John Cassaday did the cover of 1. Howard Chaykin did the cover of 2. Did
it ever make it into the Diamond catalog?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
And that was getting it into Diamond was a big deal.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, we had to have multiple issues produced, but we got in and it did okay. I mean, it was ridiculous because I just didn't care how much things cost. I was like, I want Howard Chaykin to do a cover.
Oh, yeah.
John
Here you
Cassaday.
go, Howie.
Dude, Howard Chaykin and John Cassaday, who's freaking brilliant, dude.
John Cassaday, who did it was my idea so Living in Infamy is about these supervillains, kind of like Goodfellas, that live in a open air prison, kind of like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas. And I said, okay, I want a supervillain in suburbia going out to get his morning newspaper, and he's in a bathrobe, but he's wearing his supervillain helmet. And then John Cassaday,
and he's on the cover. And I'm like looking at it right now on Amazon. I recognize this cover, dude.
And you know what?
John Cassaday. No way.
I self-published. And John Cassaday drew it with the bunny slippers.
Private chat me and I'll put it on.
The bunny slippers. And when I saw the art, I have, as a matter of fact, dude, check this out.
Oh, you got it?
This is the original John Cassaday art.
There it is, right
for
there.
the cover of Living
in Infamy. I remember that. I don't forget much.
I love those.
And
when it comes to comics, I forget my kids' names once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, how cool is this? I mean, like,
yeah, it's super rad.
I mean, it's original John Cassaday art, and it's and I gotta say, rest in peace. But here's Tim Sale's cover for issue 4.
Gone too soon, man.
So
Tim Sale was
That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bum everybody out, but
we just lost him recently too.
I know.
Super Chef and John Miller. I had mixed feelings about episode 1. While an improvement, it still had Kurtzman Trek vibes. Dark tone and characters use modern vernacular. He's talking about Shaw using
cussing.
slang.
Yeah, cussing bad. Bad.
Well, I think that, I would say that Shaw he's into classical music. so he's probably into classical culture. And I think one of my favorite lines of dialogue, even though I've watched it 8 times now, when he talks about Riker, Bebop, Kentucky Mash.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
I purged the database of all that.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly is a man. If you were to ask me about Liam Shaw, I bet he's a student of history, both military history, but also Earth history, because, you know, when he talks about liking meter and tempo and all of that, he's a classicist. You know, he loves old Earth, and he loves being by the book. And whatever that, I don't remember the exact. I loved his dialogue.
Aside from the cussing, it's great. When he says your reputations preceded you into the room. When
Come
he's
on,
eating.
dude. Is that one of the great lines ever? Come on.
The big complaint seems to be that I hear a lot right now is about the darkness, about it's just not lit enough. And maybe one of you guys can talk about the difference between shooting something on a 90s stage and shooting something in the 2020s, and the difference in that cinematic look. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll let you start, Robert. You do that stuff.
Well, first of all, if you look at Next Generation, it's very what's called high key. Everything is very, very bright by design, because they wanted the Enterprise D to look like if you're out, because it was supposed to be a much longer mission than 15 years. So it needed to be comfortable. Everywhere you went, it was comfort. As a matter of fact, Seth MacFarlane, when we were doing the documentaries, talks about how he loved the way the Next Generation looked, because the future looked so comfortable.
It did.
You know, and everybody's. But I think
see the Orville's that way too. So.
Yeah, I mean, what Terry was going for was something that's much more moody. And, you know, to me, if you look at the bridge of the original Enterprise and the original series, it's pretty dark. You know, and the corridors, I mean, I understand maybe it's too dark for people, but it is, I think it brightens up. People aren't going to have that as you move through the show. You get much more used to it.
Also,
There will be. Just stick with it. That's all I'm going to say. Stick with it.
Yes.
Also, Red Letter Media watched their video, thought it was great, and they had a very good assessment. And maybe this was what Terry was trying to do. I don't know, but it's set. It feels like it's set in the original series film world.
Totally.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask. Do you think it's a cinematic throwback to
it's
the
a
TOS
movie? This is a TNG
Robert,
movie.
The bridge of the Enterprise in the motion picture is very dark.
Very dark. Very dark.
But Robert, they're also using like the new anamorphic lens, right? Like that's like the most popular thing.
Well, here's the thing.
That sensor picks up so much, it has to be sort of dark.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think they necessarily, and again, I don't remember, I don't think they shot anamorphically. I think they're using spherical lenses because they can shooting anamorphically, you have to use a lot more light and it takes a lot more time.
And you got to drop it down in post.
And so and there's a squeeze, you have to unsqueeze it for TV.
Right.
I think what they're
Or
doing
stutter.
is they're probably using spherical lenses, Panavision spherical lenses, which are essentially square. It's what James Cameron shoots everything with. And they protect for 239. Now, Terry said, so if you're shooting something in 4K, 4K is actually widescreen 4K is 4,096 pixels by 1716 pixels. So it's 4096 by 1716.
Right.
And so what I think they're shooting this in 2K because it's expensive. To render visual effects at 4K is incredibly expensive still.
Yep.
And it takes, 6 times as long.
Even when you lose half your height.
So I think this was shot in 2K, probably with spherical lenses and whatever digital capture technology they used. Look, I think the show is beautifully shot. It's just, it might not be to everyone's Star Trek aesthetics taste, but it's got some really, I think, subtle lighting. And I'll tell you something else. It also depends on what, like with Game of Thrones, it depends what kind of a TV you're watching it on. Because on my OLED, and I tweaked it myself beyond an inch of its life, it looks too dark. But on my plasma, it looks chef's kiss. So it really depends.
It looks good on my home theater, but for the love of God, nobody from Star Trek Picard go out on Twitter and say, turn your TV up. Just don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it, guys.
Don't do it.
That's what House of the Dragon
destroyed.
did.
You will get destroyed.
House of the Dragon, that was a real big mistake.
said, but Kirk still rules. He does.
Oh,
How
damn.
great, by the way, is that?
That is hot.
I just accidentally got my second one because I ordered 2 and I forgot.
Oh, it's
So I'm giving one away in Vegas. This baby's I'm giving it
Awesome.
away.
Oh,
It's
awesome.
gonna be a raffle.
Yeah,
It's in
Tokyo,
April, right?
Tokyo Trekker says if Gary liked it, it's good enough for me. Thank
Wow,
you, Tokyo.
thanks. I mean, find out for yourself, like Robert says. You know, I'm not the end all authority, but if I would not, like, I did not expect to like this, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm gonna probably buy this on Blu-ray.
But you know what?
Okay.
I haven't bought
getting
any
it.
modern Star Trek, and I will buy this.
I'm
Absolutely,
100% buying this.
I bought
I'm buying this
none
on
of it.
Steelbook. I'm buying the Steelbook of this.
Yeah,
100%.
for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't buy Strange New Worlds.
Getting the soundtrack on vinyl,
yeah.
doing the whole 9 yards.
I'm doing all the physical media. It's gonna
I
be,
did that with House of the
Yeah.
Dragon. I got the 4K Blu-ray. I'm getting the soundtrack.
I have to tell you, I may or may not. I will not confirm nor deny that I have about a 7-minute piece of music from episode 9, and I've played it. It's, if you look at my Apple Music, because I put it in my Apple Music, it's. Oh, hang on, I can tell you.
Well, he's looking it up. Hiroshi the dog
Robert's
says,
such a nerd.
178 times.
Jesus, bro.
What?
I've played that piece of music 178 times.
Can you send me a copy so I can
That's
also
awesome.
play it? that
I
way,
cannot confirm nor deny that I have that. I just
Okay.
my Apple Music just tells me these things.
I just sent you a Zelle payment. Okay, I'm just letting you know.
Just
That.
shows
Oh,
up.
thanks, buddy.
Hiroshi the dog says, "Has anyone noticed Raffi is a full commander now? I love it. Was she not a commander before? I don't remember.
Well, she was because she worked with Picard. She probably was, and I can't remember. That's a season 1 thing.
Right? Yeah. Carlos A. Smith for $5. Thank you, Carlos. Well, like seeing the dregs of YouTube show up in one place. Kidding. Trek is supposed to bring people together, not divide. Trek for all, not for few. Amen to that.
That is something I said a lot during my reviews of Kurtzman Trek, is like, you guys chose sides. You did. Openly chose sides
Right.
when there was never any before.
Yeah,
There was only debate about like what show is better, you know, and it's what all of fandom has descended into, and it's a really sad thing. It is, and people again might not agree with the way I approach it, but there's a ton of different other approaches on YouTube. But I definitely, you know, just like Robert, just like everybody here, I'm allowed to have my opinion. I did a thanks to Chris Gore. We did a panel at LA called "Why 99% of Movies Today Are Garbage."
Oh my God, I haven't seen Chris Gore in like 5 years. Where's
You
he
haven't?
been at?
Oh,
No.
Chris is awesome, dude. But we got away, but it was a good panel. Anna, that Star Wars girl, was there, and
Sweet.
we had a good conversation, despite a couple of people being upset by the title. But we had a great dialogue there, and it was about just like, hey, we like art, and we want to, you know, we like how it brings people together. It can still make you think. It can still be allegorical. It can
Right.
certainly still be political. But you'd like to see both sides of things once in a while, a little balance.
yeah.
I mean, that's not too much to ask.
Yeah, if you take
But
a side
apparently it is.
continually, then you're just pushing the other side out the door. Son of John for $10. Thank you, Son of John. I'm open to the new season. My theory is that Beverly's son is a genetic creation of Beverly and Picard. I know NCC 80107 was mentioned in Conspiracy and a Titan novel. You would probably know more about this than me, Rob.
You know what? I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, I kicked it up to you because I'm afraid to answer it as well.
No, I look. I think that knowing that that the parentage of this character is going to be something people want to know the answer to. I think knowing how Terry will tell the story, that perhaps that might be answered.
Oh, well
Yes.
said. Well said.
Yes, it will be answered. That's certain.
You'll know for sure.
From Sup AJ1M. If Terry does more Trek in the future, could there be an Enterprise send off that we never really got, or a possible season 5? Oh, I don't know.
Wow. I doubt we'd ever get an Enterprise.
I'm not gonna lie. I pitched that though. I pitched that to Terry. I was like, please, please consider an Enterprise season 5, and you can call it Enterprise: The Temporal Wars, and just tie up some loose ends.
Do you know that Eric Jedrinson, who was the supervising producer of HBO's Band of Brothers, the first season, when for a brief period of time, Carrie McCluggage and Donald DeLine ran Paramount, and this was after Enterprise had gone off the air and before they gave J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Star Trek. Eric Jedrinson wrote a Star Trek screenplay called Star Trek The Beginning that took place 8 years after the end of Enterprise.
Wow.
Archer was in it, and it was about the outbreak of the Romulan Wars. And it was, he only wrote one draft because then the administration got replaced. So it never got made. It was the beginning of what he called the Iliad trilogy, because he called this first draft, the first script was the Iliad, the second script was going to be his Odyssey, and then the third script, the trilogy, he hadn't named it yet. But it was really good. And it could have been, it was everything they wanted with Star Trek. It was new cadets, and it had a really interesting, basically, the Romulans were going after Vulcans that were on other planets other than Vulcan. And they come to Earth and they're like, if you don't kick off the Vulcans off Earth, we'll destroy your planet. And
wow.
Starfleet basically said, F you. And at the same time, they were experimenting with warp technology to make starships faster than Warp 5. And it's a really, really great script. It's everything that they would have. I mean, it needed work because it was only his first draft. But it's a real shame that it wouldn't have gotten made, because it would have made a great sequel series to Enterprise that would have dealt with the Romulan War in a really interesting way. And the idea that it basically had ethnic cleansing, genocide. The Romulans wanted to get rid of the Vulcans, and Earth said, no, we're not going to turn we're not kicking the Vulcans off the planet. It was really good.
Yeah, and Enterprise, the way it ended, I know everybody hates the final episode of Enterprise, but you guys, I heard this. If you guys haven't seen the shuttle pod podcast,
by the way, that podcast is great.
It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But they had Rick Berman on there not too long ago, and he actually broke down why that final episode had to happen, is because the studio basically gave him like 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe to wrap everything up, and they didn't know how to end the season without doing it that way by putting Riker. It was a bad idea and it ended poorly. So yeah, Enterprise got cut off way before it should have.
And they also, Rick and Brandon had to deal with more interference from the network than they ever had to deal with before that. The network was hands off with Star Trek until Enterprise.
Well, that's UP.
Yeah, that was Les Moonves, I think, right?
And do you want to hear? I don't know. I guess I can tell the story because Rick Berman did tell it to us, not on camera. But Les Moonves wanted him to fire Scott Bakula.
What?
Yeah. Rick Berman was told, Les Moonves said, get rid of Scott Bakula. Didn't like him. And Rick Berman said, F you.
That's so short-sighted. Jesus.
And didn't do it. And when Enterprise wrapped up, Berman had to deal with the studio, and he couldn't get any of his projects made because of Les Moonves.
Wow. Yeah,
So any problem anyone ever had with Rick Berman or whatever, I developed a great amount of respect when we were doing the Blu-rays for Enterprise and and Next Generation, because we got to spend time with him and go to his house and interview him for hours on end. And he was very generous with his time and told us things that he probably shouldn't have.
Les Moonves, if you haven't seen our history of Enterprise, go watch it. Les Moonves is not a good dude.
Nope.
Let's do this thing real quick. Let's if we have anything else we want to say about Picard season 3. If you guys have anything else you want to say to kind of let people know, I mean, they're here to kind of, what are they? Come on, Rob, you always give at least one spoiler per every time you give away something. So,
well, one spoiler. Well, I don't want to spoil. Here's the thing: there's so much joy to be had on an episode by episode basis for longtime Star Trek fans. But I will say, here's what I love about what they've done. There is okay. You can assume, for instance, that there's a holodeck on the ships, because
sure,
there's holodecks on ships.
Yeah, of course.
There is a really unique usage for the holodeck that had never been explored before, and this is one of a few things that I'm not going to say what it is, but look out for it. No one's going to.
I'll say it. They just
no,
they have a ton of sex in there. It's crazy.
No,
it's
they
like a
did.
giant
Come on, that's
orgy.
what Deep Space Nine. You know, they were doing. That's what was on Deep. But I will say this: what I really love about what Terry and his writing staff did was they've taken well-worn things that you've seen for years, and they've added canonical uses for things or extrapolated upon things, added to things you never thought you'd learn anything new about.
Mm-hmm.
And the holodeck is one of those things. And they came up with a really interesting little thing that I was like, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
To coin a phrase. And they do that throughout the series. And a good example of that in episode 1 was when Picard didn't know about the navigational virus that was on the Enterprise D during Best of Both Worlds. And that's how Beverly embedded that idea, because she knew he was going to go to Riker.
Right.
When she said don't trust Starfleet, she didn't mean don't trust Riker. You know.
Yeah, and so Terry is doing the opposite of what a lot of the other shows have been doing. Usually they make older Trek worse by ruining it. He's actually elevating it.
That's the thing, and he does that throughout. There's something that he elevates, I would say, in almost every episode. There's something really fascinating, and I'm a canonista. I'm a canon pornographer. I'm a legalistic, like Tolkien. I believe in a legalistic interpretation of Professor Tolkien's work. You know, you don't fuck it up. And
there's a foundation right there. And Star Trek's always had that foundation, Robert.
Yep.
And and it works. It worked for decades. An entire generation grew up on this what supposedly boring show that
two generations.
Yeah, multiple generations. They've lost it now. But Robert, there is something. You saw the Red Letter Media review, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of guesses in that. One of them was really wrong.
Yes.
And one of them was really, really good. I would say that was a solid guess. In the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So later on in the series, you will have a treat. Treat.
Yes.
An absolute.
Although they did get the actress wrong, they misidentified Geordie LaForge's LeVar Burton's actual daughter. They thought Sydney LaForge is LeVar Burton's daughter.
No,
Miss Chestnut, who, by the way, is there a cuter girl on TV right now than Sydney LaForge?
Oh, she's adorable.
She
has that big old smile.
That was so great.
So good.
And she's not insufferable, and she's not disrespecting anybody. She's being an actual Starfleet officer.
There's military decorum.
There's military decorum.
That line from Picard, though. Is there something wrong with that ensign?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love that.
Ant-Man and the Wasp in a second. We can talk about that. Unsufferable.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I would just want to say, hang in there till the end, because that's the first real. There's a couple things, but there's first real joy I've had with modern Star Trek in decades.
Yep.
That says it all.
Okay, real quick before we move on to topics, there's some super chats about Picard in here. Play the high note for $10. Thank God I wasn't at Picard season 3 premiere. I would have gotten the crowd to chant a-hole WWF Attitude Era style.
I did scream Terry Trek while Kurtzman was talking.
Good. You did. Yeah. So he screamed Terry Trek right next to me. And I'm like, oh,
but did you use your NPR voice?
No.
In my best way.
Yeah. I mean, he was too loud. His NPR voice
pretty good NPR
requires undertone.
Yes.
Dave Campbell, where's Cullen? We don't know.
So so Dave, listen, he set an alarm. It's 2:30 in the morning over where Dave's at, and he said, "I'm going to set an alarm to get up," and he must have just slept through it, I'm guessing. So forgive Dave. He really, really wanted to be here. Really wanted to talk with Gary and Rob. So we'll get him on again.
I mean, if he pops in while we're doing it, we'll just
I mean, but gingers have no souls, so they need more sleep.
They need more sleep.
Yeah,
that is
true.
They
can maintain their physical form. Astro Nerdboy for $10. I took your advice, Robert, and I subbed via Amazon on the Visual Darkness DS9 at dark sets, especially during combat on Defiant. But Picard season 3 seems a bit too dark visually, but otherwise it was okay.
Stick with it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
you are. Yeah, 100%. From Thorough Unification. You know what? You can see your name there. Last of Us retweet 97. Picard season 3 100 retweet. Zazzy mad there. I don't know what that means. Anyone know what that means?
I don't decode that. Anybody? It's
Man, the kids today.
Yeah, everyone's speaking
Like
in
internet
code.
speak. Yeah.
My own kids are starting to speak in code.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I remember when I was a kid, I used to be like, I'm AFK. And my dad would be like, what does that mean? Does that mean drugs? I'm like, no, Dad. I'm away from computer. I'm like, oh, you better not mean drugs. Now it's over. Now it's gone from like acronyms to like full on completely new words.
yeah.
Right.
From John, episode 1 actually impressed me. A couple of flaws were noticeable. Like, why is Crusher pumping her phaser rifle like a shotgun? They didn't do that on Enterprise D. Or how about going to warp in a solar system? Well,
Terry
There's
actually came out with something on that.
there's answers for that we can't tell you without spoiling.
Well, Terry did address the pump shotgun in an article with somebody earlier today, I guess, or yesterday. Basically, the thing about the shotgun pump is that it's supposed to be old tech that's outside of the Federation. Like she's got this, her vessel's kind of she's doing the Doctors Without Borders. So they thought it would be fun to give it a little bit more action, make it a little more historic instead of the updated current stuff they have. I mean, what do you think, Rob?
I think that's exactly right, and you'll see more evidence of that in episode 2, in the very beginning of episode 2.
Yes, and why she has to kill them is also explained. It's not like she's like some crazy murder doctor. She's not Girardi all of a sudden, guys. Okay, there's a reason.
No,
for it.
there's a hint they give you when Riker finds the ash.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was important. You know what's crazy is Terry layered so many things into this.
Yeah.
If you really just go through this thing frame by frame, you can figure out a lot more than you probably should. Cinema Gulp for $5. This is the last super chat for now. Robert getting pre-blocked on Twitter is straight up punk rock. Hello to you all.
I think Gary did too.
I did, but I deserve it. You don't.
No. With all this shit I talked about modern Star Trek, I probably did too.
Yeah, I probably, said Kurtzman was like Jar Jar Abrams' abortion or something like that, and they probably got mad.
There's one more in training to Picard. Sorry.
I'm not
Christopher
sorry.
Mays. Thanks to the whole panel for giving me hope again for Star Trek. Do you think there's any hope for a future series to conclude Sisko's story arc? I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, everybody knows the actor who plays Ben Sisko is, I don't think he's acting anymore right now. I mean, could we get a Jake Sisko back? I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Could. I mean, everyone likes Sirach Lofton. He's active. He's got a podcast too.
Yeah, he's awesome, actually.
Yeah, he's great. And look, I would love to see, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of great Star Trek post DS9 novels that are really, really good. Even DS9 gets destroyed and rebuilt. I really, look, I'm a Star Trek novel fan. I was since I was a little kid. And now tie-in fiction is kind of really looked down upon. But when I was growing up as a kid, there was no other Star Trek. Pre-motion picture. So getting a decent Star Trek novel, and you had people like Joe Haldeman, who was a great science fiction writer, and David Gerrold came back and wrote a book called The Galactic Whirlpool. And then a lot of the Vonda McIntyre, who was a great science fiction writer, she wrote the first pocket books novel that came out after the motion picture, which was called The Entropy Effect. And it's really good. And so there's a lot of great Star Trek fiction out there that's worth reading. I would suggest if you read Judith and Garfield, Reeve Stevens' Federation, which is a great meeting, a way better meeting than Generations of Picard and Kirk meeting. They wrote a great book called Prime Directive that I even asked Bob Orsi about once, and he loved that book too. And he goes, we couldn't do that movie. You could do it now. What I don't understand is why doesn't Paramount for Star Trek 4 adapt Prime Directive? That's the movie.
Why aren't they making Star Trek 4?
Oh, dude, the Star Trek movies are cursed. We made a whole video about
never
that.
get made.
Shane researched it. He researched it and sent me the script, and I was like, "This can't be true. This is all true. Oh my god! It's you can almost make a movie about how Star Trek 4 will never be made. I would watch that doc.
What director are they on? Have they gotten? I agree with your assessment, Robert, that Jar Jar might come back to direct that. I could totally see.
I think it's the only thing he could get hired.
Exactly.
To do.
He ain't getting no work anymore. That boy's.
But on the other hand, I don't know if here's the only way to make a somebody needs to come in. I wish somebody loved Star Trek enough to want Rather than be director for hire, somebody needs to walk in. And I've joked. You know who should direct the next Star Trek movie? Terry Matalas.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because he would come in and make a kick-ass Star Trek movie for $125 million.
That's true.
Now he would do that. He would have a problem with the cast. The problem is the cast wants a lot of money. But you know what Terry would do? Write a brand new movie and introduce an entirely new crew. And it would kick ass. And they would do it for a price because he knows how to produce TV, which is exactly what Harv Bennett did. After Star Trek The Motion Picture, they brought in Harv Bennett, the producer from television, and they said, we can't spend $44 million on a movie again like The Motion Picture. So they make Star Trek The Wrath of Khan for $11 million. And the TV department made it. And all the subsequent Star Trek films through Star Trek 6 were made that way. That's what Paramount has to do. J.J. Abrams does not know how to make a Star Trek movie for less than $200 million.
I don't think he knows how to make. I don't think he knows how to start and finish something. He just starts
Matt
it. in one
Shackman is back with saying Star Trek 4 is going to happen still. So he's back. He was gone. Now he's back.
Who is?
And Matt Shackman.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
he
he
was-
says,
The third director, right?
Yeah.
But Matt Shackman's going to direct what? Fantastic Four for Marvel? He doesn't
Well,
want to
yeah,
make a Star Trek
yeah,
movie.
when's
I
he
mean,
making
maybe he
Star
does,
Trek?
but
I don't know.
Star Trek.
I heard that's a mess.
It's
too,
not
though.
going to make any money. That thing will flop. That thing will flop.
Yeah. Chris Pine said, "Stop trying to make $1 billion movie and make a movie for Star Trek fans and budget it for a few $100 million.
Except give me $20 million to star in it. Get out of here.
200, a couple $100 million, $200 million. Star Trek is a niche audience.
Yes.
They tried to prove all three of those Star Trek movies. Star Trek Beyond didn't even make it past 400 million, and that movie costs. Think about this: a movie needs to earn now in this day and age 4 times its budget to earn out, to break even. None of the Star Trek movies did that. And remember, whatever the box office is, the final box office, studios get maybe half of that. And then they not only have to pay back the interest that they're borrowing money to make movies, and they have to pay back the interest, they have to pay studio overhead. And people always forget that. The studios charge each one of their movies overhead. That means paying the people that actually work day to day at the studio itself, because they can. That's how tax law works. And so those Star Trek movies didn't make very much money, if any money at all.
Right.
And I think there's an argument to be made that they didn't earn any money.
I mean, ultimately,
Isn't that the problem with? I mean, honestly, isn't that the problem with Star Trek today? Anyways, they're trying to pander. They're trying to get as many people in the seats as possible instead of just making a good product.
I wish everyone liked Star Trek, but I've been trying to get my wife of 20 years to watch Star Trek for 30 years, and it's not happening. So I don't know
No,
what to do about that.
there's no new. The audience is very small. There isn't new people being there are not new Star Trek fans being made as much as they might think there are.
they didn't cultivate it when they could have. Like it was so popular in the 90s. Everybody liked it.
It was huge when Next Generation went off the air. It was ginormous. It was on the cover of Time magazine when Generations was coming out.
That's right. Yeah. Super chat from Dustin Cole for $50. Thank you, Dustin. Jesus. Hope people pay the sub for Paramount Plus for Picard season 3. Help to keep Terry Trek. Amen to that.
Somebody made a video that only you can save Star Trek. I saw it the other day. I don't know who made it.
It was us.
I don't know who those guys were.
Oh, right.
We made that movie. Yeah. Listen. Also, with coupon code Picard, you can get the first month for free.
You get the first month for free, so you can watch Picard, and then you can watch Tulsa King.
Yes, Tulsa King's amazing.
Which is so
Oh
much
my
fun.
God.
Love that show.
Also from Ian Corellis. Corellis, I can't say the word.
Correll.
If you had a dream creative team, what Star Trek novel would you adapt to TV? I'd do Vanguard or the Destiny trilogy.
Both of those are incredible. The Destiny trilogy was written by David Mack, and in the Destiny trilogy, 7,000 Borg cubes show up and decimate the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, that's rad.
And it goes into where the Borg came from.
Oh, that's rad.
And it's also not only is it a great Star Trek trilogy, it's a great science fiction trilogy. And then Vanguard is also something. Vanguard was sort of a cross between Deep Space Nine, and it takes place in the original series era. So it was a cross between the original series, and Deep Space Nine, but set on a space station in the original series era. It's also very, very good. Or Peter David, the comic writer Peter David, wrote a great series of Star Trek novels. They're like 14 novels long, called Star Trek New Frontier. Really, really good, with a captain named Mackenzie Calhoun. That's really great too.
I got another super chat here that I've had a question for a long time. From Matthew Stevenson. Hey guys, wanted to ask you, do we know if the 25% different rule is still in effect and if Terry had to deal with it?
Well, I mean, we know that CBS and Paramount are back together, so if there was a 25% rule, there is no longer, right?
No, I mean, the only thing that I can tell you about that, no one's ever confirmed that, but when we were working on our Blu-rays, I hosted a roundtable discussion with the entire cast of Next Generation. And at the end of the discussion, they bring up, do you think we're ever going to get rebooted like the J.J. Abrams movies? And Patrick Stewart said, well, because of the X-Men movies, because X-Men First Class had come out, he goes, I know what it's like to be rebooted, referring to James McAvoy playing Professor X.
Right.
And they were all riffing on it. And when that was done, I had to send everything to Paramount Legal. And I got a note back saying you have to cut any reference to J.J. Abrams' Star Trek out of anything that you do.
Wow.
You cannot address it at all, even in the most oblique way. And it really sucked because it was Patrick Stewart being funny and it was a charming moment, and we had to cut it out. We could not refer to Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek at all. Not a word.
This is why they have you perma-blocked, by the way.
Yeah, I guess. I couldn't tell. The book I would do, I got to have my beeper ready because I'm going to use an F word, would be Star Trek The Return, because Generations. I hate Generations so much.
Can I get that thing? Where
that book, by the way,
this?
also by the Reeve Stevens, that book rules. And if you look very, very closely at Terry Trek, there is an Easter egg about that book.
Yes, there is.
Oh, you're right. That's rad.
Yes, there is. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, oh my God.
Hey guys, I got the 330 25 of you have said you liked it, but I'm only seeing 290. So hit that like button if you're here. And Shane, I believe you want to switch topics up.
Yeah. So I just really quick, Gary, I got to tell you, inspirational. Your Wasp and the Ant-Man review was absolutely fantastic. I saw it today. It was just moving and inspirational. So I want to know. So we know it's woke, but it isn't going broke. Are people broken, or have we just decided mediocre bullshit is good enough?
Well, Box Office Mojo came out with some erroneous numbers, so people were rolling with that for a little while. I don't know if you guys know that.
Yes.
So I go to the numbers now. It did okay, but it's largely spin. They were comparing it. They're like, yeah, it did as well as Guardians of the Galaxy 2 7 years ago. And it's like, but how did it do against Thor? Oh, 40% less. It's actually tracking with Black Widow right now. It did 225 roughly for the 4-day weekend, and it's going to have a 67% drop off next Friday. I'm predicting it now, guaranteed.
65%? Jesus.
67% unless, and you know what sucks is they had to push Avatar. Like, I didn't love Avatar, but people loved it and it made money, and it pushed Avatar out of the big 3D theaters. You think, like, maybe can we get the Avatar back in the theaters? That's probably what they want to do.
Avatar out of the premium theater, and that's the only reason Avatar is killing it is because of the premium theater.
Marvel still has it's diminishing like fast, and I have been saying this was going to happen for a long, long time, and it's really simple formula. When Marvel took over Marvel, we wanted Marvel. Iron Man looked like Iron Man, Captain America looked like Captain America, Hulk looked like Hulk, Thor looked like Thor. They did a really good job in the beginning. They did all the work that DC is going to completely forget to do with James Gunn, which is going to be a big problem. Is you have to like, First Avenger had to walk so Winter Soldier could run, Civil War could run, and now you have Kevin Feige, a man who, if he retired after even Endgame, Hollywood would have been renamed after this dude. Like he did something that's unbelievable, will never be done again. But
dude, I said the same thing.
Long.
I said, take your Super Bowl ring and go home, bro. You won.
Dude.
You
Phase
won. That
4,
was the best franchise you've ever made. You don't have you can just stop while you're at the top of the mountain. You don't need to go further. And yet he kept going further.
like he even made an Ant-Man movie good, like Ant-Man. It's
Right,
like
Ant-Man.
Robert, you read comic books. I mean, I didn't hate Ant-Man, hate Hank Pym, but I knew him as Yellow Jacket and a giant. Like he's not a major character. Wasp is more of an OG major character than
Yes.
Ant-Man.
Right.
Yes.
And she gets backseated in this. And it becomes like Michelle Pfeiffer's movie, which if she was the real Wasp and got in her costume maybe more than once for 2 seconds, fine. But no, they made her insufferable girl boss. They bringing in his daughter, who's like an obscure young Avenger. They're trying to push the Young Avengers, by the way, which was a good miniseries, but
it's obvious.
They
It's
skipped
obvious.
decades of great story arcs to get like the Secret Wars they're moving to is the modern one, which is terrible. It's terrible. I read the book and it's the book that broke the 616.
That's
is.
the Hickmans.
Why are they
Yes.
why are they trying to adopt material that has not worked in the comic books? Like they're adopting material that doesn't work.
Okay, Robert might be able to help with this. I believe, of course, I think everything woke turns to crap, but I think it's intellectual property too. I think we are going into stuff where Disney bought Marvel and they want to adapt those stories more so they can avoid any payment of residuals, because we've already seen that with Lucasfilm. They're not paying people anymore. So I think money has something to do with it. And they also want to tell more modern stories. There's also copyrights are going to start coming up someday with these superheroes, and they need their own versions.
Did you guys see what Warren Beatty did?
Yes.
with Dick Tracy.
Genius.
That was so great.
That was, for those of you out there who don't know, it's hard for me to explain it.
It was basically a YouTube video.
It was a
Zoom call.
They did it for rights, securing the rights to Dick Tracy. And if look up Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy, I think one of the trades did a really interesting background on it.
It was great. He was actually interviewing himself at one point.
He was interviewing himself.
It's
crazy, but a lot of these companies, I have to tell you, there's a gentleman I have amazing respect for, who's a very high-ranking person in the industry, and was explaining to me something that I found fascinating. So there is a rule that, and I'm paraphrasing this, so I'm not going to get the details right, but let's say you write a screenplay, like for a franchise property, Die Hard, Predator, 1987 to 88, right? You write that screenplay. I think it's 35 years later, the rights to that screenplay, which means the underlying rights to the entire franchise, revert back to the original writer. Now, the Friday the 13th franchise was in litigation because Victor Miller, who wrote the original Friday the 13th, was battling with Sean Cunningham, who directed Friday the 13th, over the rights to the franchise. And because Brian Fuller wanted to do a prequel with Mrs. Voorhees. But what happens is, so after 35 years, if you want to make a Predator movie, or you want to make a Die Hard movie, or you want to take your pick, you have to go back and renegotiate with the original writer or the writer's estate. And there's a lawyer here in Hollywood that specializes in those negotiations, and he drives a hard bargain. And so when they made Prey, the recent Predator movie that's pretty good, they were able to get it made right before the 35-year mark ran out. They were able to get it into production. But that's why it's, a lot of our franchises, they have to do these kinds of things. And I want to say Dick Tracy came out in 88, I think.
That sounds about right.
88, 89, yeah.
And what he was doing, they're trying to preserve, or for whatever reason, they had to get something in under the gun.
Yeah, they got to get something underneath the timer so that they don't lose the rights to it.
Yeah, so they don't lose, and that's and luckily Prey was a great film. I liked it a lot.
What's interesting is I don't even think he's planning on making anything.
90 came out in 1990.
90, okay.
Donnie Pearson.
I don't think Warren Beatty is actually going to make any Dick Tracy movies. I just don't think he wants them to have it.
Well, I think,
Wow.
even though
I'm
it was
okay
made,
with
it
that.
came out in 90, they put it into production. 88 would be the cutoff point. So the way Warren
Yeah.
Beatty works, it probably took, remember, like, he was dating Madonna,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Breathless Mahoney.
Oh yeah, this
I still have one sheets with the character one sheets somewhere.
Those
in
were
my house,
cool,
yeah.
too.
Yeah, they were. I liked the movie. I thought it
Yeah.
was cool. That was a fun movie.
Warren Beatty was a stud, man. That guy burned through the entire
Hollywood.
West Coast. Yeah, Hollywood. Yeah.
And he settled down with
was
Annette
Warren
Bening.
Beatty.
And
Yeah.
then they made Annette Bening Marvel and Captain Marvel, which was terrible.
But
Have
she
you guys-
did say in Bugsy, "Why don't you go outside and jerk yourself a soda?" Which is one of my favorite lines in any movie.
Did you guys see the latest trailer? Actually, just saw it in the theater with Ant-Man and the Wasp. The latest trailer for the Flash movie coming out, where it describes that the metahumans are all. He basically gets rid of the metahumans by what he does, but also all that's left is Michael Keaton's Batman for him to go to for support. Did you guys see that trailer?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
His changes basically to the timeline removed metahumans, and that's how he had. That's super rad, by the way.
I think, and that's why Zod took over the world or something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Look,
why
I think,
Zod
look,
wins.
it looks cool to me because I like that stuff, but everybody's been saying how good it is. But again, I just miss why doesn't somebody adapt to Superman for all seasons?
Yeah,
Spring.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? Get somebody like he'd never do it, but somebody like Frank Darabont. Give us the Shawshank Redemption of Superman movies, not meaning set in prison, but with that kind of heartfelt at the end hope.
Kingdom
you
Come. There's a book, Kingdom Come.
Well, you could lead to that.
Right, you can
much
lead to
later.
it. Yeah. You set up to it. Hey, how about Henry Cavill now, and then Henry Cavill in 10 years doing Kingdom Come?
I like James Gunn. I do. But I think he's going about this like all wrong. And he was stuck with some bad stuff, and they have to put these movies out. And Flash, as much as I don't like Ezra Miller as Flash and never will. Two of them is even worse. Seeing Michael Keaton come back is cool, but like, can't we just get Michael Keaton in a movie? That'd be fine. But I agree with Robert. It's like, just do none of this happens without a good Superman movie. You can even have a good Batman movie now. You can have two good Batman movies, but you're not gonna rock
Superman.
a cinematic universe without Superman. Just not gonna happen.
He's the cornerstone. Can I ask you a question, Rob? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Campia reached. I'm sorry, John Campia, Robert's life partner, recently said that he was getting. A little birdie told him that Grant Gustin might take over as Ezra Miller.
No, he doesn't think that. Like, I think somebody asked him about that, and then we said no. Here's the thing Grant Gustin's a TV star.
He's a TV star.
No one's going to make a $200 million movie around him.
Right.
As much as I like,
I was like, I watch Campia and Robert Meyer Burnett every day, and I don't remember him saying that at all.
No, he never.
What made somebody think they could make a $200 million movie around Ezra Miller?
Well,
I agree with that, by the way.
yeah, dude, you read that Variety article that was talking about Ezra Miller's like troubles, and it led with how he got arrested, and it said the cop was pulling things out of his pocket. And they're like his wallet, a gun shell, $200 million of Warner Brothers money.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I will say this, the word on the street for like the last year, all I've ever heard from people is that it's a really good movie. I've heard that from many different people. I was hearing that from people that worked. The real bellwether in Hollywood is when I hear it from post-production people, because they're the people who have actually seen things. They're putting it all together and mixing. Right. And I've heard that it was really, really good. And then what was happening with Ezra Miller started to happen, and one person I know was really lamenting the fact that they hope people would even get a chance to see it because they liked it enough to say it would be a real disappointment if it never comes out. And they weren't sure if it would. They thought that the studio would have shelved it. And I'm like, there's no way that a studio, but then Batgirl got shelved. And I was like, if they can spend $90 million on a Batgirl movie and shelve it, I'm like, all bets are off, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a lot of respect.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we have a lot of respect for what James Gunn has done up till now, and we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now he's come out and said it's one of the best superhero movies he's seen,
and he had nothing to do with it.
Right?
It's not part of his regime.
Right. He has no reason to lie. Right.
I mean, I've worked with James Gunn before a while ago, but I really liked him. I really liked working with him. He is one of us. I mean, he's a dyed-in-the-wool comic book, and he wrote a novel. He wrote a novel called The Toy Collector. That, Gary, if you haven't read it, I think you'd really dig it. It's dark. It's hard to find now, but it's got Robbie the Robot on the cover. And it's called The Toy Collector. And because he came out of Trauma. You know, he was working with Lloyd Kaufman back in the 90s. And I work with him on a movie called The Specials that he wrote and is in, that Craig Mazin, who created the Last of Us TV series with Druckmann and also did Chernobyl, directed. And there it is. There it is. What is that selling for?
$75 right now.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's the hardcover.
I'm about to buy it.
What do you guys think of the news that Netflix is now going to have discussions about taking over the mantle of DC, a la?
They said February 30th.
Yeah, but they're taking it over for Justice of the Snyderverse.
Yeah,
What did you guys think of that news? I mean, fans brought this to life, or what?
They're never going to. Warner Brothers is never going to allow them.
Dude,
to
they're
do that.
trolling them. There is no February 30th.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they said
there's no
February
February
30th.
30th. It's impossible.
They can't. I mean, they're not going to give up their copyrights to those characters.
No.
Dude, after 42 years, I had to check my calendar again. I'm like, wait, am I missing
So
something?
was it Straczynski who said? I know, I saw that. He was talking about Babylon 5 at the time, and people were just asking him about remasters or redoing it. And this is before CW picked it up, and he's like, "No, I've been told they want to do nothing with it, but when a company gets its IPs, they never let them go. Even if they plan to do absolutely nothing with it, put it in the warehouse like the Ark of the Covenant." And no, a company would never, ever let especially an IP that they still think they can make another Marvel with, which they can't. I mean, that ship has sailed, but they're still going to do it on that belief because they with Hollywood being so corporate now, it's just so bottom line, and these idiots don't watch any of their own stuff. Like, none of them watch this stuff.
Gary, you don't think they can make a Marvel franchise, an Endgame franchise out of DC with James Gunn in lead?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. I was curious. I was going to go back to that with you, Gary. You said like you think that they're going to make some mistakes that Marvel didn't make from the beginning. What do you think?
Well, yeah, they're like doing Phase 4 first. I mean, the Authority, fine story, do it later, make it its own series, but like in the first chapter.
Yeah, it's a wild decision considering it has a knockoff Superman.
I have a theory about this. My theory is they are going to do a Kingdom Come-esque story, but it's the Authority's already established. They're already there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the rise of the good characters, because you got Creature Commandos that they're doing. They're already in production on that. You've got the monsters. You've already got the Authority are the monsters too. Creature Commandos are monsters. The Authority is the monsters. And we're going to see the rise of the gods. And I think that they're going to do a riff on Kingdom Come with the Justice League and the Authority.
Ooh.
I think.
It's still doing it out of order because the problem
know.
is the Authority is a Justice League. It's a Justice League
it's
knockoff.
wild. It was
It's a
wild.
knockoff Justice League, right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how do you do that?
Why would you use the knockoff when you have access to the actual?
I think they're going to do it. You know what I think James Gunn's thinking is, and this is totally wild speculation. One of my favorite things in the world growing up was when the Justices once a year, the Justice Society and the JLA would cross over.
Right.
And when I first read Giant Size Justice League 114 had the Earth 3 with Ultraman and Power Ring, the evil Justice League. And I think it was Gardner Fox or something. That was from the 60s, but it was reprinted in that. I think it was Justice League 114. I think that's what it's the crime syndicate from Earth 3. I think that's what they're kind of thinking. That's why the Authority is already, I think, is going to be here and already established. And then you're going to see the pantheon of Justice League form, however, and go after the Justice League, go after the Authority, because so they're going to do a reverse, something like that, because it would take too long, but because of this, I recently reread my Absolute version of The Authority. I really like that comic. I mean, it's been done kind of to death with The Boys and that whole riff on.
Yeah, it's also like a crash course though on like how the universe works. That's a really fascinating idea, Rob.
I mean, I don't know if it's true. This is just I was thinking, what is the method? Why The Authority? Why The Authority?
Yeah,
like Gary said, why would you do The Authority now? And plus, The Authority came from outside DC.
Yeah,
it was part of Wildstorm, and then it got put into the DC universe. And Midnight and Apollo are the gay Batman and Superman characters. By the way, that's not a disparaging thing. Apollo and Midnight are gay. They're a gay couple in The Authority. That's how they were. That's how they were established. But they are riffs on Superman.
I have a couple Wildstorm comics, and I bought them for like $1.50 a piece, and now they're like $150 on Amazon.
Because the announcement, speculators.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, that's what I think, and that could be interesting if it was done well. But again, I have not talked to anybody about this. I was just trying to figure out why The Authority, what possible reason, and that's the only thing I can think of. It's called Gods and Monsters. You have amoral humans and monsters, and we need the rise of morality.
No, Robert, that's a really good idea. That's like a play on like a couple of different runs where the Justice League had to fight people of their own stature. That's
because how do you give the Justice League? Who's Superman going to fight? You going to bring Zod back again?
Right.
No.
Yeah, and you want to lead up to something like Darkseid and these like big cosmic villains. You got to start at home somewhere.
Yes, you're not at the cosmic level yet, but I do think they talk about a Green Lantern series with the two Green Lanterns are like they're looking for something. I think they're looking for the anti-life equation, but they don't know it.
Oh my God, that'd be so rad! Oh my,
yeah, and they don't know what it is.
Like they come across some other box.
And there's also you got Swamp Thing, with the reality, the nexus of you got the entire supernatural that can be brought in there.
Yeah, so but why do Swamp Thing before Constantine if they're so connected?
Well, because Constantine came out of Swamp Thing. Alan Moore created John Constantine in the pages of Swamp Thing.
Jesus, I had that backwards for some reason.
Yeah.
So, I think because Constantine got so much more popular, that's probably why.
Yeah, but I mean, if they do that thing, if they go and do the anatomy lesson, and I love Alan Moore. I recently bought the Absolute versions. Gary, now let me ask you, Gary, since you're here, this is totally random. So, have you seen the Absolute versions of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing?
Yes, I have them.
Okay, now there's a lot of controversy. First of all, I love picking those books up because they're fuzzy, and I love the recoloring in them. But so many people hate the recoloring, and they had the original colors come back. And the thing is, it's not newsprint. And so often when they do the Marvel Absolute or the Marvel Omnibuses, the shiny paper does not do the art any favors. But I love the coloring in those Swamp Thing Absolute versions.
Yeah, I think especially when you're taking stuff from pulp to new paper, the colors don't transfer very well.
No,
that's why I prefer comic books.
right.
That's why I prefer the comic books. But I was fine with it because I knew they messed.
Yeah, I just love the way it looked. Yeah, on that paper, it looked. I mean, I love my Absolute versions of of stuff that I read a lot. I mean, I love the original comics, but if I read a lot, like Sandman, I read a lot. Watchmen, I read a lot. Transmetropolitan, I read a lot. Stuff that I read a lot of, I want in book form, and I love it when it's bigger because you can appreciate the art.
Yes,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Hey, Gary, I got a question for you about what do you think of Gunn's idea to bring Superman back, starting at the Daily Planet? What do you think about that whole element of starting it right there?
That's fine. I just making him super young and then making Batman old makes no sense. If you're going to have a younger Batman and a younger because they're contemporaries. Yes, he ages slower because he's Kryptonian, but they are contemporaries. They look the same age. Batman might be a little bit old, maybe a couple years, but they've always been pretty much the same age. But it sounds like they're going to have like an older Batman who's on his freaking third Robin, maybe fourth.
On his fourth Robin. No.
Yeah, and it's that then getting rid of Henry Cavill makes no sense at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
why do you think they got rid of him?
I think they wanted to be. I think they're going to get rid of everybody. They might bring in Jason Momoa and recast him. I believe they're getting rid of everybody.
Is it a money thing or a story thing?
I just think once the movies come out, they're going to say nice things, and then they're going to They're gonna do a hard reset, which would make sense if you're going to do a hard reset. But they've got movies coming out and they can't do that because they would just make the movies meaningless and dumb.
Yeah, then they shouldn't have released the Henry Cavill thing. They should have just let that.
No, that was I think the Rock did some stuff, but I can't buy that the studio head didn't know. It's like, yeah, you did. As Robert says, there's invoices that need to be signed off on.
Yes.
People get paid. That's bullshit. So I don't know if he doesn't want to work with them or not, but no other actors have come out and said Henry Cavill's an asshole. They love him.
Yeah,
they like
working on The Witcher.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, the writers did, but the two actresses who worked with him said, no, we love him.
That's
love
true.
him. Yeah.
And remember, I mean, he didn't just do Superman. He didn't just do Man of Steel. They brought him back for Man from U.N.C.L.E. Then Guy Ritchie's Man from U.N.C.L.E. that'll
Great
never
movie.
come back. He was great. It didn't make any money, but he was great in that as Napoleon Solo.
He was.
Yep.
You know what? There's an interesting thing here. Dustin Call Super Chat. How about doing Superman set in the 1950s?
That'd be fun.
That's interesting. What if, in order to be as contemporary, they do show Superman 30, 40 years ago, and they bring him forward from there?
Like Earth 2.
That'd be
Like
fun.
Earth 2.
I would say I think this 8-10 year plan is dumb. You just make one good Superman movie and go from there. Make a good Superman movie first.
Yeah.
Walk before
Amen.
you can run. Take the little baby steps.
I mean, and look, I think Henry Cavill, they should make Red Sun as an Elseworlds movie and make him Superman, the Russian Superman.
Oh my God, that'd be
Mark
so
Millar.
rad.
You know, Mark Millar and
my
Matthew
God.
Vaughn have had a Superman movie for 14 years. They've been trying to push that nobody took them up on.
Man, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Matthew Vaughn directing a Superman movie would be epic.
It would
that'd
be epic.
We got a super chat from Salty Nerd Podcast. Our boys, brothers from another mother. Great discussion, guys. It's super cool that us old Trek nerds can be happy again for now, at least. See you all in Vegas in April.
Vegas.
Yeah, that's
I
when
wish
the meetup is, right, Yuri?
Yeah, April 26th, Wednesday. But we'll be there all week acting like knuckleheads. I sure wish I could go to the Star Trek experience. I miss that so much.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you do, Gary. Joe Cronin.
good.
4 good people. You know what's funny is the first time we met Gary was at STLLV 3 years ago, or whatever.
Mhm.
That's when I met Gary. I gave him a Nerdrotic shirt. That's how we got to know each other.
Next tease, baby. Do you know that I think the Star Trek experience sign is still up? It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
that? It's still on the side of the hotel.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
Our boy at the Millennium Fandom Bar got some stuff from it though. He's got the door frame that you walk in. He's got a bunch of props from it at the
Really?
Millennium Fandom Bar now. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to go out there, Shane.
It looks sweet inside. It's really nice.
Also, Lord Baralthian, Rob, can you leak something from Secret Invasion?
You know what? You'll get in trouble if I did that live on the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
There is a line of dialogue that I leaked on a show. I said it the other day, and maybe it got cut out because nobody seemed to. I wouldn't want to ding you.
are you part of the Secret Invasion crew? I didn't know that.
He's a scroll.
Shh.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I have to say that I really did enjoy what they've done with Secret Invasion, and what I don't understand is where is it? You know, it's not even dated, and we got that cool trailer. I mean, for me, what I love about it is it's espionage, it's spy thriller, it's Nick Fury kicking ass, and it's funny because I said that it was a sequel to Captain Marvel, and it was misinterpreted. What I meant was, it takes place contemporary. It's contemporary, but what Captain Marvel set up with the Skrulls and Nick Fury, and we saw that Nick Fury's on a Skrull ship at the end of it takes that idea further, and it's really, I thought it was really good. I really liked it. It was totally different from what I was expecting. It's very much more along the lines of Winter Soldier, and it really is. It asks a really interesting question about. We'll just say it's very Skrull centric. That's
interesting. Yeah, it reminded me when I saw the trailer. It reminded me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is one of my guilty pleasures. So.
Well, are they comic book scrolls or the happy dappy scrolls from Captain Marvel?
Great question.
Oh,
Okay.
Let me say there might be scrolls with a difference of opinion.
Okay.
How about that?
Oh, interesting.
How about that?
Robert, what do you think about a movie that they don't announce a delay? They drop the date on the bottom of the poster and then go, here's a poster. Oh, yeah, it's delayed another 6 months like the Marvels.
Dude,
For the 5th time.
I didn't know that movie was still happening.
Yeah.
That, first of all, until you tweeted out with the extra little added, I can't unsee that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I show that to my girlfriend. I'm like, look at this. And she was looking at it. She goes, no way.
Yeah.
And I go, yes. And she's like, how did nobody see that? And I said, well, I don't know, but they slipped one by. I can't imagine. When you put that out, I wish I hadn't seen it because I haven't been thinking. I've been thinking about. I keep showing it to people, going, "Look at this."
Yeah, I'll show it. Yeah, the same exact thing. Now I can't unsee it.
I can't unsee it, and I'm like, how?
That will not get by the Friday Night Tights audience ever. They live for stuff like that. So yeah,
drove me nuts. I saw that and immediately now that's all I can see. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for that.
I can't believe it.
It's wild. Also,
Thank you.
Another
you gotta
thing
channel your
unsee.
inner 12-year-old once in a while.
Here's another thing I can't unsee because of Gary. Thank you, Gary. Can't unsee that. Jesus. We were talking about Ant-Man. I was like, Darren was the worst ever. And then as I'm talking to Shane about this earlier today, this pops up and I just start laughing uncontrollably.
I love that Salty Nerd Podcast just got it. He writes, "Holy crap, I'm blind."
I'm blind.
Yep.
Oh my god!
They got Brie coming out the pooper. What can I say? It's crazy. The MODOK was going to be a tough sell in Ant-Man, but there's a way you could have done it. Kept that mask on, made him look more. I would have used a practical effect with MODOK, like an 80s practical effect to make him look super creepy, and had him murder just everybody.
Or like Belial from Basket Case.
Yes.
Frank Henlotter's Basket Case. Pull him off.
I don't know, man. I don't think you can pull off MODOK.
George Lopez from Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
He looked worse than that.
He
He looked
did.
worse than that, yeah. But I don't even know. I don't know. I don't think they could have possibly pulled it off unless they kept the mask on him the whole time. It would have been easier to avoid it than to try it because too hard. Some things can't be translated properly.
I mean, the writing was already terrible, but why even drop yourself even further down with the whole dick stuff? Like
so many dick
whole,
jokes,
you're a
thing.
dick, I'm a dick, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm not a dick" when he goes into goes after his boss.
Drinker.
My kids were there, bro. My 10-year-olds were there, and I'm like,
there's there's no experience with writers anymore. Robert's talked about this. Drinkers talked about this. I've talked about this. People don't go out and live their lives and experience that. They just watch a bunch of TV and go straight into Hollywood, and that's their life experience. And that's what this showed. Like, there's no human connection. The quantum realm is some silly space realm, and it's not supposed to make a ton of sense. But you do need to set like basic rules.
Basic rules.
How can we breathe? How can we walk? How are we not falling apart right now?
Where's the water coming from? I don't get it. You're smaller than an atom. Water is made up of atoms. I'm so confused.
How did you get technology? How does metallurgy work? It's
so
like
many problems.
a little thing. We're nerds. They weren't technically the Micronauts, and now that's another confusing thing too, because Micronauts used to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. Weren't they Mego? Or
they were. So the Micronauts were actually a Japanese toy that was then imported and brought over by Mego. And then when Marvel started their direct sale comics, it was Moon Knight, Khazar, and Micronauts were their first direct sale comic book store only comics. And I really loved Micronauts. Michael Golden drew the Micronauts. That was it was
Michael
dope.
Gold was the man in his prime.
Golden was,
was good.
He drew Avengers Annual 10, which was the first appearance of Rogue that Chris Claremont wrote. I love that. And when she took Carol Danvers' powers, threw her off the bridge.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget when I read that.
Yeah,
dude.
that was awesome.
I was going across the Golden Gate Bridge when I read that. So I was imagining it was happening
I mean,
around me when I
how
was 10 years old.
I don't understand. Like, if I was, that's how I would introduce the X-Men into the MCU. I would have Captain Marvel on Earth, and for some reason, Rogue just shows up, don't know from where, Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and takes Carol Danvers' powers and throws Brie Larson into San Francisco Bay.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That would bring so many people back immediately.
I mean,
yeah.
and it's canonical. It's right out of the
canonical.
comics.
That's how you fix it.
I'm still confused as to how the Micronauts even work in that. And I read
So the Micronauts belong to Mego, and I thought they belong to Hasbro now, which Disney owns, right? Doesn't Disney own Hasbro?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Marvel was really weird because in the 70s, they got the rights they published John Carter, Warlord of Mars. They got from the Edgar.
Oh, God, that was so
Frank
good.
Miller's first comic was in John Carter.
That was so good.
Warlord of
And
Mars,
they had the rights to Conan. They did the What If Conan the Barbarian was in the 20th century.
Great,
Bill
great.
Sienkiewicz.
Super rad.
And then they had all these literary characters that they had bought the rights to. And then they got other licensed properties like Micronauts and ROM Space Knight,
ROM Space Knight.
That's why they can do the Space Knights, but they can't do ROM, and
They can't do ROM.
and they can't do the Dire Wraiths, or can they?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
There's something weird. I think there's somebody said Micronauts in a French comic, which might have the rights or something. I'm not really sure.
Isn't the Space Knights pretty important to like the Green Lantern stuff?
I gotta find
sorry,
it.
I'm not
Well, no, that's Marvel.
I'm not
Space
doing
Knights.
it. I meant the Marvel. Oh my God, Captain Marvel.
The one piece of Steve Ditko art I have a page from the Micronauts. That's Steve
name of this
Ditko.
company.
I got it for $40.
Man, it's kind of like one of my most beloved DC comics that nobody knows or remembers is Atari Force.
I remember Atari Force.
It was, Jerry Conway. They spun it out of the video games that they had that they were putting them in, but then they did a 20-issue series that Jose Luis Garcia Lopez drew, and I love his artwork. And Jerry Conway, I'm going to get my 20 bound because it's never going to come out in any form. So I'm just going to take my single books and have them bound into a hardcover because nobody cares but me.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
You can get them. You get leather bound.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, because nobody will care.
No,
I'm just like, and nobody will want them. But the art's great, and I love those.
Yeah,
but they don't have the rights. I'd love to bring back that comic, but
isn't the space? Yeah, so the Space Knights were a big part of like the Guardian stuff, right? With like Star-Lord, Galacticus, all that. Like the next generation of
they did. Well, they did publish a Space Knights series it was an offshoot of ROM, but they couldn't say that.
No.
I don't know why I was doing quotes.
It's okay. We do them all the time. Especially if you're
this?
listening on, I don't know,
What
do you
am I
guys go
saying?
on Spotify with this?
What? No.
Air quotes aren't very good on iTunes and Spotify.
No, it'll eventually go on Spotify, but I'm really lazy, so I don't do it for like weeks.
So I got a question for you guys. Avatar: The Way of Water just overthrew Titanic at the all-time box office, now sitting at number 3. With this franchise likely going to be 1 and 2 all-time now very soon, what do you think it means for the future of movies, the way this is going down?
There would have been a time I would have said this was the death of cinema. It still is the death of cinema, but like things have gotten so bad that an Avatar movie that I don't like doing well still makes me happy because at least the effects were good,
Oh, yeah.
And it made people happy, but it was another. I'm not into the. I don't think the Na'vi look good.
They don't look good.
They don't look good, and I think it's boring. But the effects were, like, amazing. Like little flecks in the water and stuff. Like it's really well done. But what do I think? Well, for one, they cheated because we're not adjusting for inflation. You're charging way more for these 3D audiences. They sold far fewer tickets for Avatar 2 than Avatar 1. So we need to start like really being honest about these box office numbers because Gone with the Wind is still number 1.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody will ever catch
adjusted
right. For inflation.
We run through the inflation adjusted all the time. And these movies don't even sniff the top 10. Rob, what do you think of Avatar: Way of Water?
Well, I mean, look, I'm a big James Cameron fan, and I think the Avatar movies are his way of trying to get a whole generation to become environmentalists. Instead of being a politician and going out there and trying to get people to be aware of their environment, he's made these movies, and that's going to be sort of his life's work is to through whatever I mean, apparently they're going to go back to Earth or whatever. And here's a guy who's been down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
pretty rad.
With technology that his late brother built. And I think that I think that he's made James Cameron is a great meat and potatoes populist, in that if you look at all of his stuff, every one of his movies has sort of an element of romance. Yes, even the Terminator movies. Kyle Reese is in love with Sarah Connor.
Yep.
In his movie True Lies, it's about a husband and wife trying to reconnect in their marriage. The Abyss, you have Bud Brigman, played by Ed Harris, loves his wife, who's a bitch, but wants her back anyway. And it's his love for her that convinces the aliens to spare the Earth, if you watch the extended version.
Yep.
So I think that James Cameron is basically he's a brilliant director. He knows how to shoot and edit, because he works with other editors, but he edits his own movies as well. No one knows how to build an action scene like him, in terms of where to put the camera and what shots should go in which order to make the best action scenes of all time. And if you look at the way the truck chase in the LA River in Terminator 2, when the T-1000, the guy's a master.
Yeah,
but he's very much, his movies are very much blue collar films, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's appealing to everybody, the everyman, and he wants to make movies that are wildly entertaining, and you don't need to be some intellectual giant to love them, although they work if you're an intellectual giant too. And I do think the Avatar movies, James Cameron has been doing the R&D for the rest of everything that James Cameron does, the rest of the industry uses 5 years later. Like when he did the pseudopod sequence, the water probe in the Abyss, that technology, because they didn't know how to do that with the reflections and all that, that led to the T-1000 and T2.
Yeah, I remember watching that as a kid and thinking like, holy shit, I was blown away.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing that R&D because he's like, well, how do you do that? And like water was traditionally the hardest thing to do in CG.
And then he comes along. It's still pretty hard in video games. You want better FPS, turn your water off. Yeah,
and that's what he's doing. And when his movies make money, that means he gets to go and push the boundaries of technology.
That's true.
Further. And while I think the Avatar movies, like, I enjoy watching them. I don't watch them over and over and over again. But I appreciate what he's done, and I like the fact that a lot of people, like, look, my mom, pragmatic woman, not much imagination. I took my mother to see, even though she raised me and she indulged my imagination, but my mother was, to give you quickly, when my mother and I went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, we're driving home and I'm like, Mom, what'd you think? And she's just thinking to herself, she's like, that could never happen. Right. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She goes, the scene where he's hanging with his bullwhip from the back of that truck, and there's all the rocks and the dirt blowing into his face. He could never hang on. That's all you need to know about my mom. I'm like, Mom, you mean
she's one of us?
I power of God, the Ark of the Covenant? That doesn't. She's like, no, Moses parted the Red Sea and the Ten Commandments, but he could never hang on because he would have. That's my mom. So I took her to see the first Avatar in IMAX 3D.
Mom sounds based, man. I like it.
Well, my mom, when she saw Avatar, when it was over, she'd never seen an IMAX 3D movie before. My mother's eyes were, not just because of 3D glasses, were as big as saucers. And she turned, she looked at me for the very first time. I saw wonder in her eyes. And she looked at me and she said, how did they do that? And that's why the Avatar movies are successful. Because my mom, my unimaginative, pragmatic mother, was transported to Pandora.
I am satiated, Rob. Thank you. Wow, nice.
Yeah. Joe Cronin says reality Idiocracy will be reality by 2050.
I think much sooner than that.
I think we're seeing that already happening, bro. Also, another super chat from Lord Borathian. I think Disney will milk Avatar now.
Oh, hell yeah.
They're going to milk it like Luke milked that weird alien blue milk. That's what
Come on.
100%.
All right, we got on to a topic you guys are all going to love here. James Bond news came out today. Barbara Broccoli says they want to good news. James Bond is going to be a dude. Absolutely 100%.
That's good.
Probably.
They want to completely reinvent 007. Why is this terrifying me?
What can
Gary?
you reinvent already? Like, I don't get it. What do you mean? If he's a dude, what are you going to
They
reinvent?
didn't give us more information, but they want to reinvent him. So how could they possibly reinvent 007?
Didn't we just get done reinventing him? And then
Oh yeah,
killing
that
him?
didn't work. So they're going to try another reinvention, Gary.
How could
Well-
they possibly reinvent 007?
I don't think by making him 007, like making him the actual, that would be the most radically different thing they can do is making him a freaking alpha male. Like,
Oh, imagine that. Imagine if they just made him like the Sean Connery version again. Like, we're reinventing him.
no,
okay?
I was joking about Timothy Chalamet getting cast as Superman. They'll cast Timothy Chalamet as James
No.
Bond.
No.
The emo James Bond?
No.
Rob, what do you
Dune.
think about James Bond, this whole thing going down? I mean, they've confirmed we thought they were going to try to, turn him into a woman. Now it looks like they're not going to do that, but they want to reinvent him. How can you reinvent 007?
Well, here's the thing. I'm the biggest James Bond fan in the world. I love the James Bond movies, but truth be told, I only liked one of the Daniel Craig Bond films, and that was Casino Royale.
Yep, I'm with you.
I think that, first of all, I think James Bond has a huge problem. In this day and age, who does he go after? Islamic terrorists, or there's no one. The thing about the James Bond movies and the books, the books were written in the 50s, post World War II, Cold War books. And in 1962, when Dr. No came out, most people had never flown internationally on a jet.
Right.
So and Playboy magazine had the men's lifestyle. James Bond presented a lifestyle to the middle class that came out of World War II and was now nesting and building their neighborhoods and everything. And it was wish fulfillment on a grand scale to a lot of men. And obviously people like John F. Kennedy, the Camelot White House of the early 60s, all of it was part of that. And fighting larger than life groups like Spectre and Smersh was a big deal. And there was always an element of fantasy wish fulfillment. I mean, great food, great women, great cars. I mean, all of these things that we all loved. And as a kid, I loved James Bond. And unlike if you're Superman, the Richard Donner Superman he's having fun as Superman. You watch him talking to Lois Lane, and when she finally walks out from behind a lead planter, he's like, "Pink, your underwear is pink," and he's like, Superman knows what's up. And like James Bond, having a good time. Superman liked being Superman. Bond loved being Bond.
Right.
Daniel Craig, 5 movies of his dour.
Yes.
I mean, in Casino Royale, he was newly minted Bond. He loved it. I don't care if you're married. I'm going to sleep with you anyway. I mean, Casino Royale is the Bond we know and love. I mean, he would do anything as a ruthless functionary agent. All he cared about was king and country, or queen and country, and saving the world and having a good time while he did it. If he's gonna take the pleasures of the flesh, the pleasures of booze, the pleasures of killing somebody who deserves killing, he's gonna do it. And then we get to the Daniel Craig. Why is James Bond nice and morose? And like you watch in Skyfall, he's like, "Oh, I accidentally got shot off the train, so now I'm going to go sit in a bar and drink myself to death and play drinking games with scorpions." It's like,
That's right.
What? No, that's not James Bond.
Right.
And I think, like everybody else, all the other, let's reinvent these people and give them feelings and let's make them more relatable. I don't want to relate to James Bond. I want to know that there's a guy like James Bond. I don't care how many people he sleeps with. I don't care how many people he kills. I want to know that James Bond's going to save the planet when the shit goes down.
Amen.
Yeah.
And the problem is they don't know how to do that now.
Right.
Because how do you make a Hugo Drax and his Moonraker? How do you make a Blofeld and his, or how do you have Carl Stromberg and his giant oil tanker that devours nuclear submarines?
Right.
It's like, oh, we have to make it all realistic. They don't even know how to make a James Bond movie anymore. It's like,
They don't.
and they don't. And I think when they try and reinvent him, they're going to say, okay, well, in this day and age, there isn't anybody like James Bond anymore. And the people that are the villains now, they're not sexy. Like, you know, I mean, they're not. They're you want to go to the caves of Tora Bora and look for the Taliban? I mean, and by the way, Bond did that. He teamed up with the Taliban in the Living Daylights he teamed up with the Mujahideen against the Russians. Can't do that anymore.
Wow.
Nope. But I mean, I just think that James Bond, they need to make him a larger than life figure that has a fantasy bent to him. And they need to make him ruthless. They need to make him unapologetic. They need to make him like bring him back the way he was. Every woman wants him. Every man wants to be him.
Yeah.
So Henry Cavill needs to be 007.
Oh yeah, and he's going to go out and bring back a larger than life villain. You know,
Henry
I mean, if
Cavill,
you think about it, yeah, I
please.
loved Spy Who Loved Me. That's a movie about a guy who builds an underwater city and wants to find the hottest chicks and the hottest dudes and destroy the earth with nuclear fire and then repopulate with the hottest people he can find.
Yep.
And his underwater city. And Bond has a
awesome.
submarine car. And
love
Caroline Monroe's in a helicopter. I mean, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And
half of us are like, you know what? Maybe let him do it.
Hey, that car is outside of Vegas in a gas station. Well, there's a model of it. They did a reproduction of that car in a gas station outside about 10 miles outside of Vegas.
It's prim, right?
Yeah, I took a picture
yeah.
of it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. It's like every other one of these heroes that they want to reinvent for the modern age. And it's like, who wants that?
No,
Yeah.
like it's. But that's the politics of Hollywood. That's what I always talk about. We all know the truth. We all know that would sell. That's the James Bond that people would line up to and go and probably do pretty well and bring some good creative talent. But they're hamstrung. So they have to do, because of these politics, and that they've allowed these activists to come in, and now they can't do the stuff they want to do. So they have to make excuses and say, well, we got to make it for a modern. Bond has worked for a modern audience for over 50 years.
Yeah.
So modern audiences the modern audience, tell you what about that modern audience they're seeking, doesn't watch movies anymore.
They
don't
don't
watch TV anymore. If you're looking for kids, they're not watching your stuff.
You just
They're
nailed
watching
it.
TikTok shorts, man.
Because you know what? When do we all start watching Bond? When it was on the ABC Sunday Night Movie.
Yep.
This Sunday. And you'd go to school the next day. I mean, I'm a little older. I'd go to elementary school, and all the boys at recess would be like, what about when he did this? And what about when he did that? And,
Right.
you know, and what about in Moonraker when the guy was in the coffin and burned up? And I mean, people love that. Or that was in Diamonds Are Forever. And that's, nowadays, kids don't have any connection to that at all. And they don't grow up loving it, whereas we kind of grew up loving it. Same with classic Star Trek.
Oh, gone is the water cooler effect, though. Like the binging thing. Most people would rather binge something than to have that delayed gratification and be able to talk about it from week to week. But for me, that's a big part of enjoying something, being able to talk about it. Although I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite because I saw all of Star Trek in one shot. But
Well, let me ask you guys this question. Now, Gary was just hitting on it, and you know, we say they're hamstrung. Hollywood's hamstrung by activists who have an agenda. Why can't they have big enough balls to just step in and change it? I mean, if the majority of people, and I would agree that the majority of people who want to watch content don't want what's happening.
The majority of people, I'm sure Robert can attest to this, the majority of people in Hollywood don't think that way, but there is this corporate structure. Corporate structure is very risk averse. So we don't want to be called racist, and we don't want to be called sexist, and we don't want to be called misogynist. So we'll just shut up. So I mean, Robert, I get emails all the time. I wish I could say something, but like I've got kids to feed, I've got a wife, you know, I'll lose my career in a second. And so we need to, it's up to like, well, it's the paying customer who has to change this. And what changes it is things like Top Gun, turning Star Trek around with like even one good season. The Mission Impossible movie. I have a feeling it won't be woke. I have a feeling it'll be pretty just a good action movie.
I mean, Fallout, the last one with Henry Cavill turned out to be, that was great. The only problem that I have with and I love the Mission Impossible franchise, but can I say the F word?
Yeah.
Where's the fucking?
It's raw brand.
I want some fucking. And and that's, if you're going to watch, I mean, and that's something we've bled out of popular culture.
Yeah.
Where's my
Where are the
erotic
boobs?
Where are
Where are
my
the
erotic
bobs?
thrillers? I mean, it's like, and this is the problem.
I've been saying it for a long time. Where's the hot chicks? They're all gone.
We have lost eroticism. I'm not talking about sex or pornography. I mean, it's amazing for all the people that talk about activism, but yet OnlyFans is thriving. I mean,
Right.
my God, I have no problem with any kind of sex work, but you can't have both. You know, you want to commodify that, but then on the other hand, everyone else is so crazy because no one's getting laid.
It's true.
And we're missing out. And I would love to see eroticism and romance brought back. I mean, where's that? And it's interesting that we don't have that anymore. And I would love to see, like, I miss erotic thrillers.
Yeah.
I like
absolutely.
Do you
Anna de Armas, is that how you say her name? She should be the biggest star in the world. She's like,
Oh my God.
she's a 20 out of 10. So
And she was the best thing in No Time to Die, the last Bond film.
Yep.
She was the only person that was having fun doing what she did. I watched her, and she loved being a superhero that was going to cap dudes, and she would. I mean, give me a voracious, man-eating, sexy female agent that makes no bones about fucking her victims before she puts a bullet in their head.
Hell yeah.
I would love to see that.
All right, make that movie for us, Rob.
And I would love to. And we're missing, you know what? Kids are missing that. When I was a kid, and I'm like in Diamonds Are Forever when Bond's at the baccarat table or playing craps in Vegas, and she Bond sees Plenty, and Bond's asking Plenty, and Plenty says, "My name is Plenty O'Toole," and Bond says, "Named after your father, perhaps." You know, I mean, where's that movie? I mean, even as a kid, I knew what Bond meant. You know, and it's like Dr. Holly Goodhead.
Yes.
You know, I mean, Pussy Galore.
Yep.
Mary Goodnight. I mean, what's happened to our society?
We got this big old stick up our ass. That's the part of the problem. There's a big old stick up the ass of society, and Hollywood is help put it there. You know, they're so stuffy, and it's because of the corporatism and and Harvey Weinstein. It's like, well, now because of Me Too, we can't have sex anymore. We have intimacy coordinators.
Intimacy coordinators.
Oh well, it's the same thing.
Going like, don't touch them badly. Okay, $30,000. Thank you very much. It's like what.
I mean,
I don't even know how that works.
In Roald Dahl's books, they want to remove references to Rudyard Kipling. Because does that bring up colonialism in India?
Oh, yeah.
Which, yes, it does. And it's like, you know what I watched the other day? We're having an ongoing film festival for Elizabeth's parents, and we showed them they'd never seen The Man Who Would Be King. That's based on a Rudyard Kipling story, came out in 1975, directed by John Huston, stars Sean Connery and Michael Caine and Christopher Plummer. And they play two adventurers who go find their fortune. And it turns into like tilting at windmills. It's an awesome epic directed by one of the great the man who directed The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, John Huston. It can't get more masculine than that, smoking his stogies on set. And you got Michael Caine and you've got Sean Connery going to find their fortune and take over the native lands. And it's awesome, based on a Rudyard Kipling short story. Jesus. And they loved it. And they're like, why don't they make movies like this anymore? I'm like, because Rudyard Kipling's fallen out of favor, according to people that are rewriting Roald Dahl's books.
Well, and they're too busy taking away Nebula's boobs. So, I mean, like, why they're desexifying Hollywood completely.
Yeah. What was that?
First of all, you know what's really funny?
I thought that was fake. Was that real?
No, it's a real poster.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's a real poster?
Yeah.
Like, what the F? That actress should be pissed.
Well, Karen Gillian doesn't. I mean, she wants to get paid, dude. She don't care.
Yeah, but she also wants to look good doing it, so she gets some other roles, right?
She's in blue makeup. I don't think she really cares that much. She's doing Jumanji looking sexy. That's what she cares about.
First of all, I mean, who wouldn't want to hit Nebula?
100% right here, please.
Are you kidding me? That's what I'm
green
talking
chicks.
about.
The first
I
Guardians,
love
yeah, for sure. Not
Yeah,
sure
I mean,
Guardians 3. But yeah, absolutely. Karen Gillan's another 20 out of 10.
Yeah,
And-
Totally.
Jeez.
And I mean, Doctor Who companion and Nebula.
I know,
She was so great
dude.
as Amy Pond.
The ultimate.
But like somebody made a joke, but it wasn't that much of a joke that they used Sean Gunn's body for all the models for that poster.
They might have. He was the only one available.
Only one available, so they put everybody on Sean Gunn's body.
That's funny.
No, it's they're trying to desexualize women and like blend the genders and buy into that whole non-binary crap. And it's because it's a trend. It's a stupid trend in Hollywood, and it's going to make them broke. Like Guardians has got a lot of goodwill, and I doubt she's actually going to look like that in the movie.
No,
But Rob's right. Like the more we see this, some movie's going to come out and figure it out and go, you know what? We should put some boobs in it. see what happens.
Well,
And,
I mean, that's what it's so funny about what's really interesting is that, oh, we don't want to be objectified, but yeah, you do. You're still wearing dresses, people are still dressing up and looking good and going to the gym, and that's human nature. And it's like we're trying to create this weird desexified. Where's the passion? And when I say romance, I don't just mean like, oh, buy me some flowers. I'm talking about romantic notions of heroism and romantic notions of we're going to preserve the future. I mean, to get on a starship and go out into the cosmic infinitude is a romantic notion.
It is, yeah.
Comic book superheroes are romantic. The idea of doing the right thing and being something, together we're more than just the sum of our parts. Avengers Assemble is a romantic notion.
It is,
and why are we moving away from this?
That's right.
I don't understand.
Left, baby. On your left.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on. That's such a weird, funny thing. Men have been enslaved by women since the dawn of time, and they talk about patriarchy. All we're trying to do is please you.
Amen.
Now you're mad at us. Mad at us,
right?
I mean,
we couldn't exist without you guys. Okay.
I mean,
we literally worship you. I don't know what else you want.
It's such a funny, it's such a weird.
I don't want to be objectified yet. I'm an actress. I'm going to go pretend in front of a camera, but don't objectify me or an actor.
How dare you?
I mean,
that South Park episode.
How dare you?
Right?
Don't
where they're like,
I need my privacy.
You see the one, the one that was great, but the one before that, where they
Cupid Yay.
Oh my God, the Cupid Yay.
Where Randy sits down and goes, "We really got to take care of this woke stuff in Hollywood.
Oh,
we killed the Marvel Cinematic Universe."
Dude, I tried to clip that for a short, and they got copyright claimed.
And Cupid Yay is firing these little anti-Semitic arrows, and it's
right.
Cupid. It's a funny, Robert. It's a damn funny episode of South Park. It's old school.
Dude, when Randy sits down, because he thinks he's talking to like the head of Hollywood, and he has that.
He thinks Kyle runs Hollywood for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
I swear to God, I wanted to put Gary's face on Randy while he's having that conversation.
I was laughing so hard.
It was so good.
That the end of the episode brings it home.
They're the only ones that can get away with it, so I love it.
And the fact that they're still on the air and making South Park is so cool.
Yeah.
It's so. But I mean, I don't mean to be. I'm kind of tongue in cheek, but on the other hand, I'm not, because, the great. You go back and you look at like pre-code era Hollywood from the 30s, and there was. And then later on, even when there was no pre-code, you go back and you watch movies like Double Indemnity, for a great film noir. I mean, we really have done a disservice to our culture by pretending we're not human beings. We want to make it seem like we don't have passions, and we don't have erotic thoughts, and we don't have delusions of grandeur and all these things. And that's what our escapist, whether it's you're reading a pulp novel, whether you're listening to a prog rock record that tells you, you can be whatever Led Zeppelin, man. I mean, there should always be a bustle in your hedgerow.
Yeah.
True that. The May Queen should always be. You should always be trying to get with the May Queen. I mean, it's and what has happened to us? Because it's romanticism that makes us want to build a future. That it's striving for stuff that makes us want to, and now everyone's just like, nah.
I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to make good art. It's but it'll turn around. It will.
No, it will. And the thing is, people are going to get tired of not doing great things.
It's kind of happening already. You can kind of feel the winds of change coming, I think.
Yeah, even SNL is getting funnier somehow. It's weird. Like, they were pretty bad.
Going broke will do that for you, and losing money. It's like, we better change directions there, because it's like it was just a massive overcorrection that never need to happen. I remember listening to a live stream of yours a long time ago, Robert, where you said, I kind of thought things were just going pretty well. I thought things were changing just fine. Like we were like diversity, like that was kind of happening already.
And it was.
We talked about it.
It wasn't a thing. I mean, and it was happening, and then all of a sudden, look, I went to the Evergreen State College. The crunchy, chewy granola liberal college. When in 2017 they had a student uprising, and I was like, wow, this was not the bastion of liberal thought that I used to think it was. It's turned into a weird, fascist, bizarre nightmare where students think they know more than the teachers do. Like, why go to college? Like, if you're demanding, it's so bizarre to me. Now, student activism has always been a big thing, but deciding that you know more than the teachers that you're paying money to go be taught by?
Well, yeah. People think they know more than their parents these days.
It's,
they're growing up that way.
It's so weird to me. Like, it was, when I went to Evergreen, what was so great was you'd have people, I had people, in a class I saw a girl jump on a table, grab a guy by the lapel and scream in his face in a seminar. And she was right, actually. And this guy was being a dick. And I'm like, this is why I went to Evergreen. And then she made her point, sat back down in her chair, and we went on with our seminars. But at Evergreen, the way they taught was you had one professor and like 18 students. You'd have to read a book, and then you'd sit in a room and discuss it for 4 hours. And if you didn't know your material backwards and forwards, and you didn't know how to talk to people without, even though this girl screamed in the face of this guy, but she backed off, she was making a point, people had to converse. People that disagreed had to learn how to talk to one another in an academic environment. And that was one of the reasons that I loved Evergreen. When I saw what happened in 2017, I was like, what is this clown car that my college became? Where's the intelligent, you should go to college because it's dangerous, because it's unsafe, because you learn things and you experience things that you won't anywhere else. That's the whole point of academia. You delve into philosophies that are dangerous. It's like the chicken Videodrome. When Max Wren is looking to find Videodrome because it interests him, and this woman who's trying to sell him some tame Japanese porn, she's like, "Don't look for Videodrome, Max. Videodrome is dangerous because it has a philosophy." And it's like, whoa. Well, nobody wants to hear it anymore. People are like, I don't want to listen to this person because I disagree. Words are violence. No, they're not. Violence is what's going on with the war crimes in Ukraine when somebody rolls into your town and just kills you when you come out of the front door of your house. Words are not violence. Thoughts are not violence. You know what? Your beliefs should be stand up to scrutiny. And they should be examined and explored. And if your beliefs are wrong and they're not great, well then, find other beliefs. But if you won't discuss and you won't listen, where are we going to be?
Yeah, sunlight's a disinfectant. Like let all the ideas out and let the bad ones be shown, and everyone knows what's bad and what's good.
See, everyone, we just saved the world. This is it. This is how you do it.
You're
Open
welcome.
dialogue, please.
But ultimately, to bring it around, that's what great Star Trek is.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Yes. And that's why Star Trek Picard season 3 is so great.
That's what.
And you know what? The Horda's killing my men. We got to kill the Horda. Okay, let's go get her.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. She's a mother protecting her thousands of young. We didn't know that.
Damn.
I mean,
Smart writing.
and that's also romantic.
Romantic, lessons learned. It's everything that we love. So listen, I really appreciate you guys being here, giving us 3 hours of your time. You guys have been a complete blessing. Raw Rant.
Thanks for listening to me run off the mouth, man.
Well, you always say these wonderful things. It's impossible to stop you because I'm like,
literally
keep going. So Gary, you're always doing awesome things. If you guys are not subscribed to him, I can't imagine why you wouldn't be. Make sure you're watching Gary's show at Nerdrotic, Friday Night Tights on Fridays. What do you got coming up, Gary, that we can look forward to?
Well, I'm hitting the road this weekend, going down to Southern California. Maybe I'll see Robert. You never know.
Really?
Yeah.
You owe me a cup of coffee. I'm right down here. Come on.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to see all you guys. Chrissy Mayer's got a show Friday. One in Pasadena, 2 in San Diego. I thought it'd be a good excuse because I have to. I moved to Texas, but I have to come back. My mother's ill, so I have to come back and see her every 3 months. So it's a good excuse to go visit mom and some of my friends. So maybe we could all get together with Chris Gore.
Sounds great.
Have some food.
I'm down.
Maybe some other people. Yeah.
Pasadena is always a good time.
Pasadena is. I stayed. You know what? I stayed there for a week and a half. Robert. I went and visited my mom. Then I went and hung out with Chris for a week. I stayed at this one hotel that's near the Whole Foods. And I recorded a video that got 4 million views. in that freaking hotel room.
That's awesome.
So it
I'm
paid
like,
for the
"Damn it."
trip.
The studio's a waste. No, but I had a really good time, and so hopefully I'll see you there. But who's going to be on Friday Night Tights? I can't remember who's going to be on Friday Night Tights this week. Somebody.
It's always somebody good. So just make sure you guys tune in. You guys, what time do you guys run at? 2:00 on Fridays?
It'll be 3 Central, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Perfect. Yeah, make sure you guys check that out. It's always awesome. Loving your videos right now, Gary. They're so good.
It's so funny, Gary, because we changed our live stream because me and Shane both agreed we wanted to watch Friday Night Tights. We're like, yeah, we don't want
We
to.
can't watch it
Don't
and
do
do
our
our
live
own.
stream at the time. We want to watch Friday Night Tights. This is really bumming me out. Yeah.
That's true. Robert, you are just you're on constantly, brother. I don't know how you do it, but listen, we appreciate you. What do you have coming that we can look forward to?
Oh, well, I'm doing John Campea, obviously, during the days. And on my channel, I have to say I've got some new creators doing stuff on my channel. I found this guy, King Tannic, Israel. He's out of Texas, and he does an anime show. And it's called The Otaku Experience, and he puts it up every Thursday. I told him if you want to do it, I want it edited. You got to edit and have it to me. But he does a great job, and trying to get other people to work on the channel to do things, inspire the next generation, which I love. So, but then just Robservations and then Midnight Musings. And I will say this: on this Sunday, we have our 100th episode of Let's Get Physical Media. Ooh. That was a show that was born out of I needed to get this 4K copy of the original Norman Jewison rollerball from 1975. They put out, this German company called Coke put out a big box set, and I couldn't get it because they only sold it on its website. And Dieter Bastian, a guy in Germany who I didn't know, who was just a viewer, we started talking, like, we should do a physical media show together. And this was like during the pandemic. And we've done, it's our 100th episode's coming up.
That's awesome. I love physical
media. So we're going to have some guests on that. And, I still collect physical media. And just Robservations, talking about Star Trek.
Superman, 4K.
Superman.
All the Superman movies.
All the box sets. There's so much. There is so much good stuff coming out on physical media. It's so great. I don't know how long it's going to last. But.
Hey,
awesome. I know. Albert Pune, Sword and the Sorcerer in 4K.
Buddy.
Yeah,
Albert Pune, who directed that, passed away recently.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah. We were talking about True Lies.
I'll watch it in honor of
I've
him.
been looking for the 4K version of True Lies for like forever.
Well, hopefully, I don't know if it's true that James Cameron thinks it's not funny anymore because of 9/11 or whatever, but I'm hoping that we're supposed to get The Abyss. We're supposed to get new 4K versions. I just got, as a matter of fact, so there's 4 Lightstorm titles that are not available now in high def in this country on physical media. The Abyss, True Lies, Steven Soderbergh's remake of Solaris, and Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days. I just picked, this is German.
Oh, wow.
I just got this disc from Germany. Apparently it's a new transfer. I have the old German disc, but I literally just got this in the mail, and I'm hoping the transfer.
Cool.
I love it, but it's only Blu-ray. It's not 4K. So hopefully those 4, and somebody's got to remaster Terminator 2 in 4K properly.
Yeah, please. Oh my God.
It's terrible.
Yep.
All right, couple super chats here before we close out. John Burns, our boy, is here. You can tell that Christopher Reeve loved playing Clark Kent by his acting. He was, what's the word? Subtle. Didn't scream who he was. It's true. I agree with that. Also, super chat from the chat. You know what? Just realized that Bond is sci-fi. If it's not exploring new territory, why bother? I guess the original Bond was sort of sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely elements. The problem is, where does James Bond fit in today's world? What is he going to do? Who's he going to go after? And I think that's what the real problem is that you don't have, there's not a lot of adversaries to go after.
Pfizer.
Pfizer coming.
But something like that, some great,
some technocratic big tech.
Yep.
I mean, they've done it before, but some Uber billionaire.
Yeah, there's
who's built this doomsday bunker in New Zealand or something.
Yeah. Well, Kingsman did that too. Fantastic movie.
They're using AI.
Do it again. I don't care as long as he's fighting somebody.
John Burns.
I love the first Kingsman.
Oh, the first Kingsman was amazing.
Love it. Great movie.
You guys have to bring back the narrative that Sean Connery disarmed John What?
Stompanato Jr.
A mafia boss? Do you know anything about this?
Well, this is actually in LA Confidential, right? That is Lana Turner when they're in they're in the Formosa Cafe in LA Confidential, and they go beat up they beat up John Stompanato.
I don't remember anything about that. That's cool.
That's from LA Confidential.
Sean Connery had that one interview where they asked him how he has such a long healthy marriage, and he goes, sometimes women need to realize that you can hit them. And the guy's like, "Oh, okay, Sean."
Rest in peace.
John Burns again, $10. I'm afraid to screen the movie Midnight Run because of all the smoking. Midnight Run. Anyone remember when Paul Newman and Robert Redford worked together? Butch and Sundance.
Yeah.
Oh, what I love is next week on Star Trek Picard, somebody smokes a lot.
Yeah. And there's some Butch and Sundance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
they do. Somebody smokes on screen. Oh my God.
Oh my God. How you dare you? The Dark Knight. I am 1,000,000% convinced that Meyer Burnett is a modern day Immanuel Kant.
Well, that's high praise. I don't deserve that, but thank you very much.
That's nice.
That's very nice.
Zandex asks, can we get Gary to watch Stargate? Have you seen Stargate, Gary?
I have not ever seen Stargate. So there's
What?
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. So when Stargate came out, I was a Battlestar Galactica snob. I was a total snob. So I'm like, this Stargate show. For one, I hated the movie, and I'm like, this show looks stupid. And it's not
this
as
movie
good
right
as
here,
Battlestar
bro.
Galactica. Yeah. It's one of the very few Kurt Russell films I don't like, but somebody convinced me it's totally different. It's good. And I didn't watch Babylon 5 until way later, like just a couple of years ago, and just started, and I absolutely love it now, and I've watched it all the way through like 4 times.
Zadu.
You're gonna love.
So
when you watch Stargate, you're gonna absolutely.
So when I'm
enjoy it.
done with Picard and I've got some things to do, I'm hitting Stargate, and I'm gonna do like reviews on my probably for members at first.
Listen, bro, if you ever need a
April.
partner to watch party with, you,
Okay.
okay. I've seen every episode 15 times.
One of the members of the audience at Nerdrotic, who's been around since I had 1,000 subs, sent me the complete season of SG1.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I can't wait to see it.
It'll suck you in, brother. Once you start, because Brian talked me into it, and then I couldn't stop until all the seasons were over. So
we pretty much made our channel on that at the beginning. We're like, you know
Really?
what? As I talked to Shane and watching it, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. This is outstanding."
I was a freaking Star Trek and be Battlestar Galactica snob. That's why I didn't try Babylon 5. I'm like, DS9's better, and they're both great, by the way.
Yeah.
I like them both.
John Miller, modern filmmakers are afraid to do romance for fear an aspect of it could be interpreted as sexist. You couldn't do that to Han and Leia romance today.
Well, I mean, how are you going to make a Conan movie? Like, they're going to try. They are going to give it a legit try. But, like, Conan got shot down because it was too toxic masculine. Now, I heard that from the person who acquired the rights for Amazon.
Wow.
She's no longer there. And it was Jennifer Salke who gave us Rings of Power, who shot down Conan, by the way, which, I think you might have heard of the showrunners, Ryan Condell and Miguel Sapochnik.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah, they were doing Conan.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. How could
that is a true story.
Wild. That's wild.
Yes, that is a true story.
Yeah, they're never doing that show.
So Midnight's Edge has like 3 great videos on it, and Conan, I think, is in really good hands now. So cross fingers.
Yeah,
right.
Cross fingers. I love Conan. John Burns again. Led Zeppelin's lyrics are far too misogynistic. Way down inside, women, you need me. We need.
That's why I like him.
We need season 4 of Dark Matter. I agree.
Good job, John.
Have you guys seen Dark Matter by Joseph Malazzi?
No,
I have not seen Dark Matter.
Oh, okay. I don't want to keep.
Didn't it get canceled early? Didn't it get canceled early by Sci-Fi cancels everything?
I mean, it got canceled early, but it got 4 seasons.
Okay.
It's really good. It's by the co-creator of Stargate SG-1, Joe Malazzi.
Well, not co-creator. He was a producer on Stargate.
Or say probably producer. Well, no, he didn't he do Atlantis by himself?
No, he was a producer, but he became a big, an executive producer as it went along. But no,
check it out. Dark Matter is really good. So is Travelers by Brad Wright.
Yeah.
And then
I really like Travelers, and Netflix bought it and canceled it after season 3.
Yeah, but to be fair,
They didn't have nowhere else to go.
Brad Wright said he was pretty much at the end of the story when they canceled it.
Yeah, but they didn't deal with the future.
They should have done that. They were afraid to deal with the future.
I know, but I really like that show.
Yeah.
It was
I
good.
like it too. Very
Well, they
cerebral.
couldn't. Lex is good. I was looking at the chat. Yeah, they couldn't have come up with a future any worse than this. I mean, like, you know.
No, they could, and it's on Discovery. 31 in the 31st century.
900 years from
You
now.
earned this.
The
Robert, you earned that.
Travelers was by Brad Wright, who was the co-creator of SG1.
Yep.
There you
And
go.
Eric McCormack was a producer on it.
Yeah, it's a very
right.
good show.
It was a good show.
Another one from John Burns. Shane, kids these days don't listen to their parents. Yeah, Brian's raising 2 of them right now.
I got
pretty
5,
accurate.
brother. Trust me, they don't listen.
Today is Family Day in Alberta, Canada.
Mine do.
Whoa, look at that.
See, there you go, Gary. I need to come and take some lessons.
Well,
That's
now,
another
last
thing
one
when
from
I
John
just tell my kids I've been to prison and they listen to me. Okay.
Oh,
Pretty
see, I
easy.
don't have.
I don't have to
tell-
do much.
I
I
tell them
messed
I'm a
up. I was in
YouTuber.
the
They
Navy.
laugh at me.
Kidding. I am soft served. My wife is the hammer in that family.
nice.
I'm a big softie. When it comes
John
to
Burns again, and lastly, Conan movie with Peter Dinklage and the dwarves. Yeah, that'd be great. But Peter Dinklage is the Conan. I'll take that.
Come on, John.
Okay, wrap it up, Shane.
All right, listen, we guys, thank you so much for coming on the show, spending your time. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us live. Make sure you come back next week. Raw Rant, 5 p.m., same time, same bad place. And let's talk some more entertainment in Hollywood. And thank you guys. I hope you guys all know season 3 of Picard. Stay tuned. You're going to love it to the very end. And make sure you're getting over to Nerdrotic. Make sure you're getting over to the Burnett Network. And we'll see you guys again.
And we have our review of the next second season of, second episode of Star Trek Picard this Thursday morning on the Prime Channel.
Yes. Check that out if you can.
Okay, guys.
We'll see you guys later.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having me, too. It was great.